All right, welcome back to the IMNerd podcast. I'm your host, Frazier. I'm here with my co-host, Kenny.
Indeed.
And today we're going to be talking about Frieren episodes 1 through 10. So real quick, cut my fan off. Real quick, so I was told about this anime from my best friend, Xavier Swift. A lot of people might know him in the Yu-Gi-Oh community. I was also told about it from Kenny. Kenny was, I think, the last person to tell me about it, but I think one of the most impactful people to tell me about it because it came out of nowhere. I didn't ask about it. I just told him about Solo Leveling and how I had recently watched all, at the time, 19 episodes of Solo Leveling. It was 12 episodes season 1 and 7 episodes that were out at the time of season 2. And I watched all 19 in one day. And so I was telling him, like, yo, this anime, I didn't know. Everyone was hyping it up for the last couple years. And I finally watched it, and it is fucking cracked out of this world. Like, the main character to me is insane in that.
And what's cool about that is, like, similar to what Frazier's saying about Frieren, is like, on my side of the fence, I had mentioned this in a previous podcast episode where we mentioned what our lineup is going to be. I've known about Solo Leveling for a long time, and I read the manhwa, like, however many years ago. I like read a bit of that, and I had my thoughts on it, and the anime came out and everybody was pumping it up, and I just like never really felt the urge to go do it. But then out of nowhere, Frazier was like, listen, he started talking about Solo Leveling, and so I'm gonna watch Solo Leveling on that suggestion, and then we're going to do a podcast episode on that. And then what happened is, at that time, I happened to just finish watching Frieren, and I loved it. Like, I loved it so much. And I was thinking to myself, like, I got to get Frazier to watch this because it's so good. I want to talk about it on the podcast. On that day, Frazier started talking about Solo Leveling, which I know has a OP broken character in it.
Oh my God, yes.
On top of the fact that I just think Frieren is really good in terms of story and characters anyway, I also know that Frazier loves OD broken characters.
I do, bro. I had something.
I know that Frazier loves OD broken characters.
I love them.
And if you watch... it might not be apparent right away, but if you watch enough Frieren,
where we stopped at episode 10,
you realize that she's OD broken.
Yeah, so a couple things. Solo Leveling is great. We are going to cover that soon. Kenny is in the process of watching that now. I'm going through Frieren. Frieren is a little bit longer. It's 28 episodes. So what I plan to do, I was going to watch like half of it, like 14 episodes, but I didn't realize that there were going to be little arcs in Frieren, and I happened to be watching it yesterday before we recorded with the Edison Club, and Kenny was like, I wouldn't mind watching this episode with you, like just cut your stream on, we're on Discord already, just cut the stream on, and I'll just like have it on in the background whatever while I go clean dishes or whatever, and I'll come back. So I'm watching episode 10, and episode 10 was the end of this Aura the Guillotine arc, and that is where a lot was revealed. So to be clear, let's explain what's happening here. I have only seen episodes 1 through 10. Kenny has seen the whole anime, but we're going to construct this podcast topic to just the things that have happened in episodes 1 through 10, up to the Aura the Guillotine arc, which is honestly, now I'm feeling like this anime is one of them ones. Kenny suggested that he was the last person. I also saw that Frieren won Anime of the Year by multiple different award-giving academies or whatever for anime. Like, I saw it scrolling down on my Instagram feed. I would just randomly see Frieren Anime of the Year 2024. Another thing, like a week later, I'd see it again from a whole different thing that gives away anime awards. And I'm like, damn, this anime that Xavier has told me, my best friend told me to watch it. It's winning all these awards. And then Kenny says it as I tell him about Solo Leveling. And I said, you know what? Let me just start episode 1. Oh, I also went to one more source, the ultimate source of anime, Gary. I went to Gary.
I know Gary. You know what's crazy? I have not talked about this anime with Gary at all yet. I already, like, Gary was just like, oh, it's amazing. Like, he definitely had to say, like, oh, yeah, like, you got to watch it.
Gary was like, it is very, very good. I was like, very good, Gary? He was like, very, very good. I was like, damn, and Gary doesn't usually give that kind of energy. He's very nonchalant about everything. When Gary said it's very, very good, he said, it's a bit of a slower start, but it is
the same thing I said.
Very, very good. Everyone has said that. It's a slower start. Don't expect to come into it like guns a-blazing. It's not going to be...
What's so cool, though, is that, like, I just say that because, like, I'm always worried. I got to preface things. But the slow start, I personally love.
Me too.
But depending on what you're coming into, what you want, some people might want it to start and they want, like, I don't know, the shit to be happening.
Right, because Solo Leveling episode 1 and Attack on Titan episode 1, there's a lot. There's a huge climax in episode 1. You don't quite get that in Frieren episode 1. And I think that it is very different. I have a friend who I know for a fact would not like Frieren because he only likes anime that has a lot of action. He's very young. He's only like 25. But he only likes anime that has a lot of action. His brain just won't, like, I don't think he will get through Frieren and be happy watching the first like 5 episodes. Whereas
Yeah.
I'm very patient with anime. I'm older. I'm in my 30s and all that. So my attention span is also different. I'm in a different generation or whatnot. It's not a bad thing. Like everyone's different, right? Everyone likes different things. There used to be a time when I would literally say I don't watch anime unless it's action anime. That was the thing that I said.
Yeah.
And then I discovered Death Note. And then I discovered Code Geass, which Code Geass is like on the, it has action in it for sure. But the action in Code Geass, I'd argue, isn't the main focus. In terms of like the fights are cool with the nightmares. It's not the main focus though. The focus is really this broken ass genius character, Lelouch de Britannia, and like how he thinks and how he strategizes, and that
like
is the main
psychological
focus.
Traps and shit.
Yes, and that's what also drew me to Death Note, which is also not super action oriented in terms of like there's not really any fighting except the one small fight that Yagami and L gets into when they're handcuffed or whatever. So like when I'm watching Frieren, I'm going into it with the eyes of, okay, my friends have already prefaced it by saying, it's not guns a-blazing. You're not going to go in episode 1 of Game of Thrones where you're having kids being pushed out of windows and all types of crazy shit like that. But if you stick with it, it is an amazing payoff. And I already agree, and I'm only 10 episodes in, but the end of this arc, the guillotine arc, was fucking insane.
Go ahead. It was like it's just such a coincidence because, like you said, you just like happen to throw the episode on before we were about to record something else. I was doing something else, getting ready before we had to record, and I was like, "Yeah, just stream it on Discord and like blah blah blah." I'll be able to like look over and see what's going on.
Yep.
And it was just funny because it just so happened to be the end of a little arc, and it happened to be one of the craziest episodes.
It really is. I can't imagine this episode isn't one of the best. Like by all people who have watched this anime.
I think when Frieren came out, if I remember correctly, I think it was episode 10, essentially, where like people were watching it and everybody was like really interested in it in the anime community, and they were talking about it and they're like, this show's like really good, etc. But then episode 10 was like trending on Twitter. It was like trending everywhere.
I could see that. I could
like
see that.
Crazy. Like people were like, oh shit, wait a second. This shit is nuts.
Kenny literally heard me laughing. Mind you, I'm watching this anime in my room, technically by myself, even though he is there. But I don't know if he's actively watching the screen. I don't know if he's actively, because I'm sharing my screen, so I'm watching it on the platform. I don't know if Kenny's actually there because we don't have our cameras on, right? So it's like, yes, I'm in a call with him, but I don't know if he's actually watching at this moment. I started laughing when certain lines were being delivered at the end of episode 10 that were so cocky, so fucking broken, such a huge reveal. And like that laughter, Kenny just comes in and he goes, fucking absurd. Like just, it was just like, I was like, oh, you're there. Like, I couldn't stop. Like I would have been laughing by myself. The fact that he was there just made it that much more enjoyable to me because I love when either I do it or my friends do it, but where you show someone something and they get like excited for it. It's like, you already know what's coming up. You know the story already, but you get excited all over again when they get to see it. And I could tell like Kenny was so happy that I was seeing this moment.
It's the best way to relive something. We always say like I always say like I would do anything to play Breath of the Wild for the first time again. I'd do anything to play like Final Fantasy 7 for the first time, Final Fantasy 10.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my God.
Any Zelda game. Like so many games I'd do anything to play for the first time again. Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts 1. But you can't.
Yeah.
But the next best thing is to get someone else to play it. Like you get someone else to play it and then you just watch them and enjoy it with them. Like relatively recently I got somebody to play Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and it was just so enjoyable watching them play it a little bit. They haven't played it much yet, but they played it a little bit. They did like the intro mission and it was just fun. So but yeah, there's an enjoyment in being able to relive something through somebody else's eyes.
I agree 100%. That's kind of our friend group in general. We naturally we get happy watching others enjoy something that we already enjoy. So to back all the way up to what this anime is about, because we've been mentioning Frieren a bunch. I didn't know that it was the main character's name, but to start off, the main character of the anime is Frieren, and she is an elf. What's so cool is that this anime's full title, I believe, is called Frieren Journey's End, Beyond Journey's End. I think that's the full title. And I've never seen a setup like this anime setup.
So cool.
Oh my God. The way this anime is structured is that episode 1, you are watching literally a group of 4 people, the heroes, who have just completed their journey and defeated the Demon King and basically saved the world. Literally, the first episode is them kind of like parting ways and being like, we just completed our journey. The whole world is celebrating us. Every town, every village in the world. They're erecting statues in our honor. It's literally Beyond Journey's End. The title is so accurate because I've never seen a story where you start at the end of it. It would be like if Game of Thrones started after like Bran becomes the new king of the Seven Kingdoms or whatever, or Six Kingdoms,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Sansa
yeah.
says she's not part of it. But it would be like if you started with that right there, the end of Game of Thrones, the Night King's defeated. Like literally, okay, the Night King's defeated, Cersei's dead and everything, and then Game of Thrones starts from there. That would be like what is happening here. It's such a cool concept. The other caveat, and this is really important, the main character, Frieren, is an elf. Everyone else is a different species, either a human, a dwarf, or like, you know, there's demons in the show as well. But her party is comprised of 2 humans, a dwarf, and she is an elf. Elves, like in almost everything fantasy and fun, I've noticed, elves live for an extremely long time. In Lord of the Rings, they are flat out immortal. Like they are flat out immortal.
Elves live longer than any other race.
Yep, and that's like a common trope with elves. So, okay, you have this main character who is an elf, but the people she's been traveling with, they age, obviously, like humans age really fast compared to her. For context, they tell you kind of really early on in the first 5 or so episodes, she gives it to you in a very subtle way where she says, I only knew them for less than 1/100th of my life. They also tell you in another episode that they traveled together and defeated the Demon King, and that whole thing took 10 years to do. So if you do the math, if she's saying that I only knew these people for 1/100th of my life, and they only were together for 10 years, that means that she is at least 1,000 years. She's at least 1,000 years old. So her appearance never, ever, 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 ever changes during at least the course of these first 10 episodes. There's a flashback that you do see where she's younger, but during these 10 episodes where you're in current time, a lot of time passes. Episode 1, they have just completed their journey defeating the Demon King, and everyone is still very young and lively. Her party is comprised of a guy named Himmel, and he's like
Himmel the hero.
Himmel the hero.
Love Himmel.
He has blue hair. He looks like Marth. He honestly looks like Marth. Like, yeah,
he's super pretty, you know.
And he's also conceited. And Marth says, "Everyone look at me," when he does his taunt in Smash Melee, which is the first game that I was introduced to Marth. Marth is very conceited. At least that's the way he was presented in Smash. So that's the one that I know of him. And Himmel happens to be exactly like that. So I almost feel like he's a little inspired by Marth. Also the way his hair is and the color of his hair and stuff like that. Then you have Hyder, who is a priest, who is an alcoholic, and they constantly talk about how he's like a corrupt man. That's a trope that they keep on saying, that he's so corrupt. He's very like lackadaisical. He likes to take things easy. He's kind of like I won't say super perverted or anything like that, but he's perverse in a sense that you wouldn't expect a priest to be the way he is.
Yeah, he's not perverted in that, like, he's not like Brock where he's like chasing girls.
Right.
He's perverted in the sense of the word that doesn't have to do with sexuality. He's perverted in that, like, he's perverted like he's a priest. He's supposed to be holy and whatnot, and he like smokes and drinks and he gets drunk. He gets
drunk. Yeah, like blackout.
Up.
And then you have Aizen, who's the 4th party member, and Aizen is a dwarf and one of the best warriors to ever live. So you got like Himmel and Aizen are 2 warriors, and then you have the priest, and then you have the main character Frieren, who is an elf, and she's a mage. During the first like couple episodes, though, so after they part ways in episode 1, they've defeated the Demon King. This is the end of their journey. They're all going their separate, and they even say what they're going to do. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And she's like, I'm just going to spend the next, she says like several decades, you know, just like learning magic and like doing whatever, like just chilling around. So then there's a time skip where she comes back to where Himmel, the hero, was, but it's like 80 years later or something, like a crazy number of years.
I think it's something like that. Yeah,
it's like an exceptionally long number of years. I think it might be 60. Yeah, I think it's 60 years later. She comes back to where he, you know, stationed himself at after their journey, and he became known as Himmel the hero. She meets him again, and he's this old man with a bald head, a long beard. He looks nothing like what he looked like when you just saw him before the flashback. He is a cane. His back is arched down. He's super short now. And he's just commenting on how, like, you know, you haven't changed at all in terms of like the way she looks. She looks exactly the same as when they parted ways. But 60 years later, obviously he is a human. So everything has changed for him. And she goes to him to get this like artifact, this fucking thing that she left him with, the Demon King's horn, I believe it was.
Something like that, yeah.
Now, this part of the story hasn't been revealed to me yet, so no spoilers or anything like that. I don't know what the context of that was. It just like, he said, I kept this for you all of this time. You never came to visit, but it has given me like really bad vibes. It's been in my closet this entire time, and I've been having like weird dreams or weird nightmares or whatever about it, but it's just been there. It's always given me a bad vibe. Here it is. And she kind of just like, a bird just comes and grabs it and then like flies away with it. And That I don't know what that's about yet. I feel like that's going to lead to something later on, but all you have to know right now is that she looks like a young girl still with the huge elf ears and the exact same clothes and everything, while this guy that she traveled with for 10 years and defeated the Demon King with is aged so bad that now he is also at the point where he is about to pass away. And then like an episode later, that exact thing happens. And the whole world kind of mourns for this guy because he is known as the, the person who formed this party. What's interesting?
He's the leader.
He's the leader. That's
the
what
leader
of
the party. He's Himmel, the hero. Like he's just like the man. Everybody looks. It's like because the story. It's so interesting. Like it's an RPG. You know what I mean? It's like an RPG story, and it's he's the leader of the party. He's Cloud. He's Titus. He's Squall.
Yep.
Like he's that character, and then Frieren, who's the main character of the show we're watching. But Frieren's not the main character of the group of people that went and defeated the Demon King.
Exactly.
But yeah, so he's Himmel the hero. The whole world knows the whole party, but like they kind of don't know them as much as they know Himmel the hero. He's like the face of it.
Yeah.
And then also, I don't know if you've noticed at the start of every episode, there's like in the top corner, it'll say like
how many years since Himmel the hero died.
Yeah. The whole show is tracked on like how long it's been since Himmel's death.
Yeah, you could almost say
an interesting way to go about it.
It's almost like Jesus, like AD and BC, before Christ, after death type thing. Literally, the timeline in this anime is structured around Himmel's death, and I think that's really cool. And they will every time they travel to a new area, a new town, a new castle, whatever, they always let you know where it is, how many years has it been since Himmel passed away. I like that. It makes it feel very atmospheric. At first, I was really confused, and I would have to pause the episode to just read it because I love making sure that I capture everything like that. But yeah, they let you know constantly. It's been 20 years since he passed. It's been 28 years since he's passed. Whatever. So, like Kenny said, Frieren is not the main character. She's not the leader of the party that she was in. She was just the mage on that party that helped to defeat the Demon King. While I'm watching it, I didn't realize how powerful she was because they do a really good job of hiding how fucking powerful this girl is. Like, I thought looking at her party, I was like, okay, I guess Himmel was like OD broken, which he probably was regardless, because they do show clips and stuff of him doing stuff. He's really powerful. They don't let you know until literally like episode 8 that Frieren is actually that girl. Like, she was the nuke on the party. She was the problem. She was always the problem. Like, there was a reason why Himmel went to her and said, yo, we need her. Like, she was that girl.
Once again, we're going to be jumping. We're only within the first 10 episodes, but we're going to be jumping all around because there's stuff I want to talk about in like all of the episodes 1 through 10. But we're also kind of jumping around as we go through what we're talking about here. It's so great because you get to I think it's like episode 9 or 10, but you saw where like Himmel, the first time Himmel meets her, and they show a bunch of stuff that we'll cycle
episode
back
10
to.
Is amazing.
But they show her master, and we'll talk more about that later. But her master basically tells her to like, do not leave your name in history. Like, you are the secret weapon. Like, her master's a human. The person who taught her magic was a human, or at least taught her magic in the refined way that she now knows it. And she was like, humans, once again, only live maybe 100 years, 120 at best. But this elf, she knew would live for a very long time. And she's like, you are the secret weapon. Like, I'm going to teach you, like, this is how I deal with demons. You are going to be the one to kill the Demon King. And so you have to live your life in obscurity. You cannot leave your name in history at all until you kill the Demon King. So they show, she like settles up somewhere, and then they show like this little, like, or not little, this big patch of grass. And then they show like a settlement get built on it, and then like some walls, and then more walls, and then they get built up, and then there's a castle. And like, there's this whole time lapse that goes by of like this tiny settlement becoming a kingdom, and then like her living kind of near there. And then Himmel shows up, and it's been however many hundreds of years. She first meets Himmel. I say all this to say, and Himmel has this really good intuition, but he asked her to be the mage on his party. And then she's like, no, like, you don't want anything to do with me. Like, I'm just a random weak mage. Like, I haven't done anything with my life. And then Himmel asked Heiter, who's the priest, and priests are also like aligned with magic. He asked him, like, what do you think about her? And he goes, oh, she has about 1/5 of my mana. Which means like she's pretty strong. Like 1/5 of my mana is pretty strong. What's so fun? And then like whatever, she's like, okay, cool. Like, I'm obviously not that strong. Leave me alone. And then Himmel's like, no, I actually think you're the strongest mage I've ever met.
Yep.
She's like, how do you? And then so Himmel has that good insight. But the thing I love about this too is Heiter thought he was the shit because she only had 1/5 of his mana.
Yep.
not realizing, at least at that time, I think eventually he learned, but
Oh yeah,
not at
probably
that
quickly
time,
too.
he didn't realize that she's like never used, like she has her mana suppressed to like probably less than 1%. Like
It
it's
has to be.
so
Kenny,
fucking low.
it literally has to be less than 1%. So there's so much to unpack. She has this master named Flame the Mage, who's known as a legendary mage in history. Okay.
She's the god. They say in like episode 3 or something, she's not a god, but she's revered as the god of human magic. The
Yep.
person who brought magic to humans. And I remember when that first happened, I was slightly confused because I was like, what? Because I know Frieren is an elf that's been alive for, let's say, 1,000 years.
Yeah.
How could this human be the god of magic? And at first I was like, oh, maybe this person lived 1,000 years ago, or like
Yeah, that's
whatever,
what I thought
whatever it
too.
may be.
They make it obscure with that, ambiguous.
So I wasn't 100% sure, but basically magic existed before Flame. Flame didn't create magic, but she is the one that brought magic to, she's the like the first human mage that really introduced magic to humans.
Yeah.
Because elves and demons and whatnot could already use magic, and Flame is the first one, as I understand it, to like bring that
And
to the
she's also outrageously powerful. She is outrageous for somebody who is a human, and humans only live, like you said, 80 years, 100 years or whatever at max. For somebody like that, her abilities are so outrageous, and they talk about her. So when Frieren is going around in that first 6 or 7 episodes talking about her master here and there, it doesn't come up a lot, but every time it comes up, she talks about how there's all these grimoires that people replicate that are fake versions of real teachings by Flame the Mage. And she says almost all of them are not real. Like Frieren is very jaded by this whole concept of these grimoires. She's like, yeah, people try to always replicate her work. They're all fake though. And at first you don't realize why she knows that, but then it's revealed that like that was my master. Like that, it's a reveal that her master was Flame. Like you don't even know that. She just talks about there was this legendary mage who lived a long time ago, and all of her work that you see today is just people faking her writings and teachings. It's not real. And so you're like, damn, she knows a lot, but it makes sense she's been 1,000 years old. Then it gets revealed like episode 8 or 9 that that was her actual master. Like that's the person who really taught her everything that she knows now. So Frieren is naturally talented. And what's cool about that scene where Himmel recruits her and he says, like, I want you to be my mage. And she says, I'm not that strong. That guy behind me is a better mage than me. And he's like, no, I think you're the strongest mage I've ever seen in my life. And she says, how do you know that? And he says, just a feeling. That was a play on another scene where Flame comes to this village, an elven village, and everyone there is dead, including this gigantic demon. Everyone, all the elves are dead. They're slaughtered. This whole village of elves is slaughtered. And there's this huge demon that is also, he's in armor. He's also killed. She turns around. She sees this little girl who is Frieren. And at this point, we already know what Frieren looks like, but she's childlike at this point. She sees this little girl just kind of crouched down, who is a little bit wounded, but she has like aura coming out of her body. And she's like, you did this. You killed this demon that was massacring your people. And Frieren is super just in one of those kind of like out of body states where she's like she's not making eye contact. She's like looking past Flame and just saying that, yeah, but I wasn't able to save anyone. I wasn't able to protect anyone. Even with my abilities, like it wasn't enough. And Flame kind of tells her that, you know, like, you are a very exceptional mage if you were able to do this. And she's like looking at the dead body of the demon. And she's like, this is such a pain and all that other stuff. She's like, the little girl basically, you know, is really powerful. And Flame realized that. But she also has this moment where Frieren's like, who says it? Does Flame say it? I'm trying to think of how this goes. Flame, I think, says it to Frieren that, like, you are an exceptional mage or something, and that whole thing about like I just got a feeling about it happens again.
I think like basically she says like you're one of the strongest mages I've ever seen, or she might even say you're the strongest.
That's what it is. Frieren says that to Flame. Frieren, while she's in that subdue state, says you're one of the strongest mages I've ever seen, and Flame, who just appears as like this woman, right? This woman walking around.
She also has her mana suppressed. Her mana is super suppressed. They show like her mana, and they show Frieren's mana, which is like pretty big at the moment.
Yep.
And they show Flames, which is like super suppressed. And you at this point in time, you don't really understand what you're looking at.
No, I didn't.
You know that like you can tell that it looks like one is bigger than the other. So like it looks like Frieren has more mana than the other one. Right. And I wasn't fully sure at this time what was happening, if it was like just the skill or if it was like the actual mana. You know, who knows, right? But yeah, Frieren essentially because Flame kind of plays coy, like, what do you mean? Like, what makes you think I'm like the strongest mage you've ever seen or whatever?
Right.
And Frieren says like, it's just a feeling. And then Flame like gets excited by that.
Yeah. And then she basically saves her life. She carries her on her back. And they go to the next scene where, you know, Flame is carrying Frieren on her back. These 3 demons appear out of nowhere in this forest. And they jump out. They're all armored. They look really cool. They have great weapons, staffs, and swords, and all types of shit, right? They're these huge demons. They're on top of this, like, cliff, too. And they're looking down at Flame and the elf. And they say, drop the elf, and we'll let you live. And Flame's like, so if I just give up this girl, you'll let me live. And it's like, the order was to kill all elves. That was what the Demon King told us to do. The Demon King told us to kill every single elf that we can find. So that's a plot point, too, that I don't know exactly, like, why... I mean, I can assume now, but you know, you don't really know why exactly the Demon King has this specific order. It's starting to unravel a little bit, but and anyway, the demons are told this order: kill every elf that you can find. So when they find Flame and this little girl who's like kind of wounded on her back, walking through this forest, she's like, "Drop her, you can go. We don't care about humans." They literally say like, "We don't give a fuck about humans. That's not a part of our thing. We just want to kill the elves." You're
not even on our radar,
right? So they also activate their mana, and it looks like in Dragon Ball Z when somebody powers up, where you see like their energy, their aura literally lifts out of their body, and it's pretty big. And they are essentially underestimating Flame because her mana is very small, at least visibly. Like when you look at her, you don't see some gigantic field the way these guys, they have this like gigantic field. So she puts her hand out towards them like Flame does. And this fucking yellow, like final explosion thing comes out, and it wipes out an entire chunk of the forest. They like pan the camera out to a field in the open, like open grasses. You see a shockwave come through, like a wind shockwave from what Flame just did. Then they go back to the scene where the 3 demons were standing. There is literally nothingness now. Like there's a fucking Dragon Ball Z size crater of nothingness where they were standing, and she was like, Frieren, I want you to understand something. Those 3 exceptional demon mages, they underestimated me, and that was their undoing. That's the thing about demons, is that they can't help but to flaunt their abilities. They were going to sneak attack us, but then they realized that I was a mage, and because they realized that I was a mage, they wanted to flex that they were a better mage than me, so they activated and revealed their aura. They turned their aura to the max just to flaunt, I'm better than you, because they can all see each other's aura. That's the thing. Like the demons can see, and then Flame can see theirs. Just like the thing between mages, they can see each other's aura. But what they don't realize is that Flame, the legendary mage, has been suppressing her. It's just like lowering your power level in Dragon Ball Z. You remember back in the day, that was like a big part of Dragon Ball Z, is like suppress your power level. Well, that's what she's doing. And it's considered, this is the part that I don't quite understand why it's such a taboo kind of topic about suppressing your mana. But Flame does say it's a cowardly way to exist, and it makes a mockery out of magic to do what we do, where we pretend like we don't have a lot of mana, like we aren't as powerful as we are. To walk around the world and pretend like your mana is small and to purposely suppress it like that is a mockery of magic.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's what they're doing is like there's like such a love for magic that they have, like Frieren love, like they all have this love for magic and this respect for it. And there's this sort of society that's built around it. And I guess it's like something that you love and then you flaunt. And then she even explains in the one episode that like, because Frieren asks like, demons are cunning, they're tricky, they do everything they can to trick us and to kill us, etc. Like, why don't they do this trick? Why don't they suppress their mana? And then Flame explains to her that they can't. And at first when she said that, I was just like, oh, like they physically can't.
I thought it was like Frieza can't sense power levels thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like they just can't do it. Like something biologically they can't. But then Flame explains, and it's so cool. It's not that they literally can't. They could. For example, they suppress their power level when they're hunting, when they're like sneaking up on something.
Yep.
But when they realize they're about to fight another mage, they show off. They don't hide. It's considered a mockery of magic to hide your magic or whatever. And then Flame explains that like for demons, might makes right. They are survival of the fittest. Like the stronger you are, and it's a ruthless society. So they're saying, like humans, like in order for there to be order and like
status,
organization and government, etc., humans have a way that they have order, and it's like largely done through like their clothing. And their like they have this fancy clothing. You can immediately tell who's like a pauper and who's a prince. just by like looking at them, the way they're dressed and etc.
Yep.
So she was saying like for demons, their mana is their clothing. That's how they show their wealth. That's how they show their importance. It doesn't do you any good in the realm of demons to suppress your mana, because you will be taken advantage of. You'll be treating cruelly, like, and
yeah, you'll be looked down upon flat out.
Yeah, and then you could also say, oh, but just like how flame is, like, even if you suppress your power level, it's still beneficial to you because you'll like be able to trick the other demons. You'll be able to fight them any. But like, it doesn't work like that, because you'll never be able to live long enough if you're suppressing your mana in the realm of demons, because you'll just get killed. You won't be able to live long enough to be able to pull that off.
Right.
Because like you'll probably just get killed. She says it's a very cruel world. But essentially it's like the demons have such ego that they could never even think of doing that.
That's what she says. It's not that it doesn't even come across their mind.
It's that like they could never even think that it's an option.
I love this entire little arc where Flame is explaining how demons work, because so many things happen in these first 10 episodes in terms of learning about demons. In the world of Frieren, they are such a unique creature. So normally we know, you hear the word demon, you know there's something evil, something that usually kills humans or whatever, something that might even eat humans. They do all of the above in Frieren, right? But then they make it a bit more layered. They can talk and speak English like the way we can, right? So demons, they look like humans, but they have horns and they can speak our language. However, the only reason that they speak our language is not because they actually wish to communicate with us and not because they wish to understand us. It's specifically with the intent to harm us. Yeah. And they are willing to use speech as a way to trick us and lure us, and then they kill us and eat us. And so that may sound really simple because it's like, okay, sure, vampires, like in most things, they'll, like they say in Twilight, the vampires in Twilight are beautiful and they smell really, really good. Like in the book, they explain how they smell. They smell insane. They like have an alluring presence. They're meant to look extremely beautiful and smell extremely good to humans, so that way they lure humans in so that they can eat them. That is literally the only reason why they naturally, like the way they were written by the author, was that like they need to be like that so that they could prey on us. It's the exact same concept in Frieren where the demons, they speak. And an example that they show us, there was this village and there was this little girl who was eaten by a baby demon. So there's like this demon that is probably like, I would say looks like a 10-year-old girl, right? There's this demon that is the size of a 10-year-old girl, has horns, has long hair, really shitty clothes on, and it had just eaten someone's daughter. And the mom is screaming and crying while all the townspeople are surrounding her. It's like, you fucking killed our baby. Oh my God, you killed our baby. Like, I want her murdered. I want her killed. And Frieren is there with her party, right? So Himmel's there, Eisen's there, they're all Hyder, they're all there, the party of heroes.
And Frieren's ready to kill this little bitch.
Yes, Frieren pulls out her wand, she charges up a blast, and she's about to let it go on the little 10-year-old demon child thing. And I believe it's Himmel who steps in and like says maybe she can atone for this. And so
and I think he says something like they can talk, like if they can communicate, like we can, like common ground can be reached. I don't remember I think Himmel says something like that.
He did.
People say that they're basically saying like the fact that they can communicate means that some way we should be able to reach a common ground. We should be able to talk and reason with them. And Frieren just like, no. Like,
Frieren, who's older than these humans that she's traveling with by hundreds of years, even at this point, because their journey was only 10 years. So even at this point, she's 1,000 years old, actually. But she's like, yo, I'm telling you, that's not true. You're going to regret that, basically, in her own way. She has a very specific way that she speaks about things. She's very nonchalant. And even when she knows more, she lets things go because she doesn't see the significance of like stepping in sometimes. She doesn't see the significance of arguing things or even the significance of time. And we'll get to that too. Things to her are just kind of like, whatever, you know, like people are going to die because of this mistake that you're making, but like, it's not enough for me to really step in and interfere here. I'm going to let this happen, even though I know exactly how this is going to play out. So she warns him like this.
And she lets you learn, right? Because with as old as she is, she's probably learned by now. Sometimes you can't teach someone anything. Right. You know what I mean? Like you have to let someone learn it for themselves. So all the talking she can do, and also she knows Himmel. She knows Himmel's heart. Yep. And he's like that unwavering hero. So no matter what she said, he would kind of have that thought process, almost like a Superman or something, where like, no, I can change it. I can do it. And then so she knows that, and she's like, okay, like I'm just going to let you find out for yourself.
Right. So this little demon girl ate someone's daughter, like literally consumed and ate an entire little girl. And here's Himmel saying like, oh, she can atone for it because she can speak. The little demon, when Frieren was about to kill her, said, "Mom, mom," like twice. She said "mom" twice. So she was calling out to her mother, which made it feel like to Himmel, like, hold on, man, like this is somebody's kid, you know, like let's think about this. And Frieren turns off her attack and like accepts that this is what we're doing, we're letting this live, but you're going to regret this. Time passes in this village because the Himmel's like, we're going to be here anyway, so we'll be around regardless of what happens. Time passes, they're in this village, they're in this place, and they're showing a little montage of this demon girl being taken in by the mayor of the town. And like the mayor has a kid as well. The mayor has a daughter, and they show like the demon girl eating with them. They show the demon girl playing games. They show the demon girl learning certain things that humans do. And like, she's doing all of it right in this montage. She's doing everything that they're showing with the kid and stuff like that. And like they're bonding or whatnot. And then it suddenly goes to the end of the montage and you see the mayor's house on fire, and it is like completely engulfed in fire. And the demon, the 10-year-old demon that was saved, is holding the mayor's daughter now, like holding her, not eating her, not attacking her, just has the child in its arms, carrying her, and the child is knocked unconscious. All the townspeople are gathered around again, watching this house burn down. It's like, what did you do? What, like you fucking killed the mayor. Like, why did you do that? What made you do that? And the demon turns around and goes, I fixed it. I killed him so that I can return the favor and give you this child as your daughter because I ate your daughter. And so she pushes the daughter, like the one that she's holding, the mayor's daughter, she like offers it. She offers this child, this human child that is unconscious in her arms. She offers it to the family that she ate their daughter, and they're there right now. Like, I told you, we should have fucking killed her years ago when this happened. We should have never trusted her. You guys are idiots. Like, just screaming. She's crying. She's like super, you know, just crazy hysterical, right? And the demon doesn't understand. She's like, I fixed this. I made this right. I gave you a daughter, and they're like, well, you had to kill her father to do this. Like, you don't understand. You can't do that. Like, you can't kill him and take his daughter and just give it away to a different family. That's not how fucking things work. So the demon doesn't understand, obviously. But then Frieren and them come back, and now they're here. Same situation. It's time to like murder this demon. And the demon starts to do the same thing. When it's in danger, it starts calling out for its mother. But this time, Frieren just executes it.
Yep.
And then they give you this lesson about how the only reason that demons actually speak, they don't really have family. Family is not a concept in the demon world. They don't fucking have a mom, a dad, a sister, a brother, a child, or anything like that. It doesn't work like that in the demon society. Every demon that is born or whatever is a complete individual from whatever gave it life. So like if a demon, I don't really know, because I don't think they've shown how demons like reproduce or how they come about.
Yeah. I don't think they've shown like how they're born.
Right. That hasn't happened in these first 10 episodes. I don't know if it ever will, but to keep it on just like where we're at here, demons don't have family. That is not even a fundamental word in their society, at least the way it's explained right now. So when this demon was saying mother right before it was about to be killed years ago, when it ate that daughter, that was just a tactic to trick humans so that they wouldn't harm her and that they would let her live and continue to do her fucking, you know, murdering and preying on them and stuff like that. But yeah, so that whole arc was amazing because it makes you understand now just how scary and deadly demons can be, but also how tricky and crafty they are. Because you really wouldn't get that without that, I feel.
Because all those flashbacks come from, and we've skipped so much stuff, we're kind of at the end, but we're going to go back to it. But it all comes from the fact that they end up in this town, and there's like a king, and you know, various things are happening, but this town is parlaying with demons.
Yes.
There's demons in town, and they're like making a deal with them, parlaying. And Frieren is like immediately on go, like about to fuck these demons up. Like, she's like, there's fucking demons here. Like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, she walks in and she immediately activates her staff, and her two companions at the time, Frieren and Stark, they're like, "What? Why are you on guard like that?" She's like, "There's demons in this town." And then you see the three demons walk out. They have horns, so they look different than humans in that sense, but they look like humans, but just with horns. They look very noble too. Their clothes are really nice. Yeah. You can kind of tell they're important. They're playing the part of the way how Flame explained that in human society, the way you can tell that a human is important is not by their mana, but it's by their clothes, it's about the way they adorn themselves. That is how you look like status and wealth and things like that. That's how the class system is expressed in human society. So these demons look very like, noble. They look noble as hell.
And what's so cool about that is what you then learn an episode or so later is that and it's never explicitly said in relation to these demons, but it's understood when you think about it. Those demons aren't dressed like that because they care about the clothes.
Correct.
They're dressed like that. It is another tactic to deceive the humans. They're dressed in this noble way so that when humans see them, they look important. So it's so crazy because there's a part where like the leader, not the leader, but like the leader of this troop of demons who actually works for Or the Guillotine, he's talking to like the king, and he like picks up the king's like talking about his son and how his son died in like the fight, and they're trying to like come to terms or whatever, and he's like about to kill him. And then as that's happening, this demon starts saying like, yeah, but what about what you guys did to my father? And he starts telling the story about how like the humans murdered his father and there's been bloodshed on both sides. I apologize for what happened to your son, but like you guys did this to my father, and I want to end the war. I want to end all this bloodshed, and like let's put this beyond us. Like
this is the demon saying this, by the way. The demon is saying this to the king the king lost his son in a fight with demons, and now the demon who is there, who's about to be killed, he's surrounded by a bunch of humans. They're about to decapitate him and kill him, and he starts talking about, but what about what you guys did to my dad?
Yeah, and then he realizes that the room they're in holds importance to him because like there's memorabilia of his son in there, and he's like, if you kill me, you'll get blood all over like the room and all over your son's stuff, I think he says. So anyway, he uses this to like play on this father's emotions. He talks about his father being dead, and then like he gets the king to like
sheath his sword,
and in order to continue like negotiations. As they're leaving, the other demon says to him, "What's a father?" And he says, "I don't know." He said, he goes, "I don't know. It's just something that we say because it gets humans not to kill us."
Yep.
Like he said something along those lines.
Yeah, so his name is Lugner, and he is accompanied by two other demons, a girl and a boy. Lugner looks very noble. He long hair, like horns coming up, and the people he's with is like a guy and a girl. They kind of are dressed almost like servants anyway, but their clothes are still really nice. But the guy's dressed kind of like a butler would be dressed or something, and then the girl is dressed like a little assistant child girl or whatever. Yeah. But as they're walking out of a room after Lugner, the demon, said, "What about what you did to my father?" He gave that whole great speech about how there's been bloodshed on both sides. I really am here so that we can like end this whole struggle, this war that we've been having between factions. I don't want to kill anymore. I don't want you guys to suffer any more losses on your side. I understand you lost your son. I lost people too. And after they walk out, when that demon says, "What is a father?" to Lugner, and he goes, "I don't know," I fucking lost it. Okay? I lost it because the way this story is being told, I can already tell the reason why this one anime a year is the directing. They weave so many things with the backstories that, remember, the episode 1 starts off at the end of a journey. These people have already defeated the Demon King. So this is post Demon King, right? This is the world after the great evil of the world has been defeated. And so everything that you're seeing is either present time, post Demon King, post Himmel the Hero being dead, or a flashback to when Frieren was on the party of heroes and they went through these different adventures for 10 years, which for her is a very small amount of time. But like, to obviously the humans, 10 years is a decade. It's a lot, right? Like 10 years, 10 years ago, you were a different person. 10 years ago, I was a different person. And two decades ago, we were very different people. But like, it's just showing you these little things. So we know about how demons can't be trusted from the flashback that we talked about 10 minutes ago now, where that little girl, the little girl demon who ate the daughter and then like tried to steal someone else's daughter, so killed the father to give his daughter to someone else as atonement, right? We saw that whole thing and how she was just saying mother, and right before dying, she was just saying mom, right before dying, as a way to not get killed, right? As a way to disarm humans. And it works successfully a lot of the time. But we learned that that's how deep this shit goes when it comes to them not having hearts and not understanding humans. The only reason they speak English, the only reason they speak our language, is to deceive us and to prey on us. So that entire scene that you see, you know, as you're watching it, like, oh, this is insane, because he doesn't really have a fucking father. Like, this demon is saying that only for the purpose of surviving this encounter where he's caught red-handed, you know, he's surrounded by a bunch of people. he's outnumbered, and they got the drop on him. Like, they got the drop on him. So he says what he needs to say. There's been bloodshed on both sides. It's a great speech. It's very eloquent, but they do show in the anime him look around at the room and look at the pictures.
There's a moment, right?
It's just a moment.
Like, you see his eyes. He kind of looks around the room, and the demons are so intelligent. Because, like, in that moment, he goes, like, he looks around the room and he figures out, like, the story to fucking tell.
Yep.
And he tells this story and he weaves this thing together. And, like,
it's so well done.
It fucking works. Like, it would work too. Like, it's so elegant. Like, it would work on a lot of people.
No, you're absolutely right.
And it works. It gets him out of the situation. And then, like, he goes on. And it's something I like about this is that, and you wouldn't really know this, but this reminds me of something in Dungeons and Dragons, where D&D is also inspired by this kind of stuff. It's an RPG. It's the fantasy stuff. It's inspired by Lord of the Rings, etc. In D&D and in many things, right? You'll have a demon. You'll have demons, right? And demons are evil. But in a lot of these stories with demons, there'll always be like a good demon.
Yes.
A cool demon. There'll be a demon that is good, showing that like you're not like what you're born as or whatever. And you know, you can be like
you guys
can
can change your ways and all that.
Yeah. And that's cool. I think that's a cool storyline. That's a good angle to have. But like in D&D, for example, they have creatures listed as different things. And the number one rule of D&D is that here's the book with all of the rules in it. The number one rule is that you can break all of these rules. It's your game, it's your adventure, it's your table. These rules are here to like make your life easier, and you can take them and break any rule you want to make your game better for your table. Here's the suggestion. So for example, goblins are listed as being evil. Orcs are listed as just being evil. Anyway, D&D got in trouble like a couple years ago because people were saying that like their book is racist because it's labeling races of creatures as evil. It's saying like all orcs are evil, and that's racist. And I just think it's kind of weird to do because like we're talking about orcs, we're not talking about real
fantasy.
people.
Yeah, 100%.
But it started this big thing where D&D had to like change a lot of their lingo around what they do because they didn't want to label entire groups of creatures as just evil, like goblins or orcs.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, they've already told you that you can change those rules. And in Dungeons and Dragons, they have examples of goblins and orcs being good guys. They're not all evil. It's just in general, they tend to be evil and whatever. I say all of this to say, though, I like that in Frieren, demons are evil. And there is no good demon. I don't know what'll happen later. Maybe there is a good demon. But the way it's set up, there is no good demon. Demons are monsters. They are beasts. They're just like they're a fucking behemoth. They just happen to be able to speak because evolution, like it's an evolutionary advantage that they've gained over time to deceive humans and be better at killing humans and doing whatever they do. Like they're just simply evil, and that's it. Like I don't know. Like I appreciate the fact that they're evil, and there's lore around why they're evil, and there's lore around why they can't be good.
Yeah, they're evil for the sake of being evil. Like there's no.
I like that. I like it.
It's weird. On one hand, you can say there's no layer to it, where it's like, oh, maybe this demon is good and all that, and maybe this demon can atone for it. Maybe this demon can change. There's no layers to that. They are evil, flat out. But then there's layers to it in the sense that like the way they're evil is fucking layered as hell.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's different, just like how this anime is kind of different from anything else that you've seen, in the fact that it is the end of a big RPG journey, and it's really the story of like this elf who has this extremely long life. To like kind of harken back to episode 1 and 2, is the elf has this extremely long life, and we see throughout the series like we're going to talk about Fern, but there's parts where they'll go somewhere, and Frieren will be like, "Oh man, that sucks. I guess we'll just like be here for a while." Yeah. And Fern's like, No, we got to go. Like, I'm a human. I'm not going to live that long. We got shit to do. We got to move on. And then Frieren's like, oh, but like, we'll be here for like 10 years. No big deal. And he's like, no, we'll be here for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like,
one of the things that they showed really early on in the first 3 episodes was when she was traveling with the group of heroes, right? Her main party from the 10-year journey that defeated the Demon King. One of the things was that they asked, what are we all going to do now that we defeated the Demon King? And everybody said what they were going to do. Frieren made this comment about how it'll be just a short 30 years that I'll be doing this little thing, and then I'll move on to something else. And then Himmel laughed and said, just a short 30 years like that. That's not how that works. Like that is only for you. Yes. 30 years is a short amount of time. This matters though, because something that Kenny said, I actually wrote this down. You said she knows Himmel. It's actually a plot point that she doesn't know Himmel. because after he dies, someone asks her, what was he like?
Yeah.
And she says, I don't really know him like that. I only traveled with him for 10 years of my life, which is less than 1/100th of my life. She's now, granted, it's revealed over time that is not true. Like, that's not, you do know him, right? Like, we keep seeing these flashbacks where she does know him. She actually does a lot of things for his sake in her new life post his death. This anime is amazing. I'm not even done. Good. I'm only 1/3 of the way through the anime, and it's fucking amazing.
So what I was going to say is that, like, because I kind of lost track, but basically to kind of get on the point what I was saying, because I don't remember exactly what I was going to say, but time is like very different for her. She lives a lot longer.
Yeah, she's been alive for 1,000 years. I think it
happens like in episode 2 or whatever, like, or 3, Himmel dies, and then like eventually she cries because she's like, I wish I got to know you more. I wish I spent more time with you. I wish I like valued time. And I missed out on so much. Like, you lived so much of your life without me, and like I wish that I spent that time with you, and like I actually got to know you more.
After that 10-year journey, she just disappears and does her own thing. She doesn't come back until he is a foot in the casket.
Yeah.
Like when she comes back, my man is bald. He's an old man, gray hair, gray beard, long gray beard, cane. He is literally 1 foot deep in the casket. And then in the next 2 years that she's in that place, he's dead. So it's like, damn, I haven't seen you in so long. Not that you abandoned me, but you've been doing your own thing. And to you, 60 years that you were gone, she was gone for 60 years. The 60 years that you were gone away from me wasn't significant to you. Like, almost no time really passed in your world. But look at me now. Like, literally look at me now. I'm dying. Like, I'm dying, Frieren. So, it's sad, but it's also a beautiful thing, because we've had a conversation on this podcast multiple times about how time is different for depending on who you're asking. We've brought this up a lot, where like somebody who's lived 1,000 years, the way they perceive, we were talking about this with Invincible, because it's the way Omni-Man spoke about his wife. He said that she's like a pet to me. And when you think about it, sure, that is extremely condescending and fucked up to say about a human who you've been married to and you actually reproduce with, and you married and you pretended to love them, or you did love them, or whatever.
Like, you've been with her for, let's say, 20 years.
20 years. Right. You have a son named Mark who's 17, turning 18, gets his powers and all this other stuff. When it comes down to it, you say, yeah, but sure, I liked your mom, but she wasn't that significant to me. She was more like a pet. And that is harsh. But in reality, when you think about the fact they said that the Viltrumites live for thousands of years, and Omni-Man is an older Viltrumite, you can look at him and tell, because there's Viltrumites that are younger and they're still hundreds of years old. So like, he must be so many years old, like so many hundreds and centuries years old or whatever. So he says that she's like a pet. I think about it. I've had in my life growing up probably around 6 cats, and they lived and died throughout my life. Like, when I was born, when I was able to like perceive what an animal was and understand, like, okay, that's our house cat. That cat was dying. Like, by the time I was like 3 years old or 4 years old, where I could actually understand, like, okay, this is the animal that we have as a pet. I understand what a pet is now. I'm able to speak. I'm a 4-year-old. That cat, we had already been here. The cat was around before me. That cat is old as shit now, right? That cat is dying. So that cat dies, and it does suck to me, but it wasn't like that big of a deal, because it's like, okay, I only knew that cat for like, I don't know, 4 years, I guess, but most of those years I wasn't even cognizant. Then I become like an 8-year-old, and we had replaced the cat that died, and like, that cat goes out one day and ends up getting ran over by a car, unfortunately. And that really hurt, because now I'm like, well, fuck. But at the same time, we replaced that cat. And then basically what I'm saying is that throughout my life, I've had multiple pets and things like that have like come and gone. And then like, I moved away from the house. I used to live with my one grandmother, and then I moved somewhere else. And so like, at that point, it's like, okay, well, that cat's just not a part of my life anymore. And while it does suck to a degree, it's like, damn, I'll never really see this animal again unless I go back there. It wasn't like the end of the world. It didn't really like break me. It's a pet. It's exactly what he said. It was just like a pet to me. And now that I'm 30, right? Now that I'm 30 years old, those pets, I can't even tell you what their names were anymore. Because
you're so far removed. Like, we talked about that with like, if you were immortal, and how people say like, I wouldn't want to be immortal because you'd have to live with the pain of all your loved ones dying forever. And then my point to that, which is like really harsh but true, was that if you're immortal, eventually you wouldn't care.
Yep.
Because like 2,000 years from now, that time you spent with your mom is like insignificant.
Yeah, and
Because it's been 2,000 years.
Mark has a human mother, but he's a Viltrumite. So he's going to live so much longer than his human mother. And while he does obviously love her and stuff like that, after 2,000 years, she's going to be such a small, insignificant part of his lifespan that he might remember her. He also just might not. He also might not
have like nostalgia for it, but it's not going to hurt the way it hurts us as humans who only live 100 years.
Exactly. And that is a concept that, like, sure, we can't fully grasp it because we are human, right? We can only conceptualize it. It'll never be, you know, we can never really get it. But I understand it in a sense that the way he said pet was the perfect word, because it is the way that I look at a pet. I don't know what it's like to live 1,000 years, but I know what it's like to live 30 years and have a pet when I was 4, when I was 8, and when I was 15, and have none of them be in my life right now, and me not really caring that they weren't in my life either. I don't, like I said, I'm not to be mean. I love animals, but I don't remember these animals' names. I would be making up names right now if I tried to say their names. I don't remember them.
Yeah, so I think that to say, I think one of the points I was going to make was that something that it's so interesting about this anime and so unique. Like, I feel like the demons, even though they're evil for evil's sake, and I feel like a lot of times I would mark that as a negative to the writing of something, like, oh, it's just evil for evil's sake. In this case, it's written in such a good, it's written so well and uniquely that evil for evil's sake actually ends up being good writing because of the way they frame it all.
Yeah.
And then in the same way, I think the writing of the show as a whole is super unique because the story has ended. And I think what I was going to say is the story is really about an elf, this thing that lives for thousands of years.
Yep.
Goes on this journey that means a lot to her. At the time, she doesn't realize how much it means to her. But then afterwards, it's like, what happens after she beats the Demon King, after that's all over, the world afterwards, and then like how she lives her life afterward. Like, this elf who's going to live all this time had this super significant moment of her life that was just 10 years that had a huge impact on her, and how she realizes that impact after the fact, and like how she grows and learns from there. And like, it's like this new journey for her that could only happen after the first journey. It's just really fucking interesting.
I was going to say, so let's talk about death and how very, very early on, they start killing off characters. Like I said, in the first 2 episodes, the main guy that recruited her, in his story, he would have been the main character. From the world story, he was the main character. Himmel the hero, the blue-haired, beautiful guy, young man. He was a knight, a swordsman. He's broken as fuck with the sword and all that good stuff, right? He killed the Demon King with his party, and everybody speaks of him in that way. They don't speak as though it was Frieren and her party. It was Himmel and his party. Everyone talks about Himmel the hero, right?
At some point, we gotta get a flashback of like him really that's the fuck off.
Yeah. I think that's happening for sure. Because I have seen him do some stuff with the sword, and he's fast as shit. And he like cuts someone's head off and cuts someone's arm off and all that. But like, I know it's more than that because he fought the Demon King, and he can't. They're all unscathed, by the way. When episode 1 starts, just to be clear, I don't know what happened with the Demon King, but like, when episode 1, I'm looking at these people, like I'm staring at the screen. I'm laying on my side, scratching my leg, and I'm staring at like Frieren and Himmel and Eisen and fucking Heider. After their journey is over, frame 1, episode 1, where they're parting ways. I'm like, y'all defeated the Demon King. Where are the wounds? Where's the missing arm? Where's like
also got all your arms?
Everyone is fine, honestly. So I'm like, damn, okay, they're broken. But then you don't really get the full concept because you're thinking, oh, okay, Himmel must have been the god in the party. Like, he must have been the problem. And yeah, I still don't know if he was one of the main problems, but like, she is very clearly at the end of episode 10. She's definitely, it. So death starts off, Himmel dies like 60 years after they part ways. She comes back, she sees him, and then a couple years after that, he dies. He passes away. The whole thing with the demon horn happens. They don't really go into that anymore past that point for now. Then she's traveling and she goes to visit Heider. And Heider was the priest who is a drunk. And when she visits him, he has this little girl, like this tiny, tiny little girl with purple hair. And she has a presence that can be detected. And she's good with mana control. So just the way that Flame and Frieren are able to like suppress their mana, this little girl, even as an infant, is able to do that exact same thing with her mana. She can like suppress it, and she's naturally suppressing it without even like someone having to tell her. So what's cool about that is that Flame had to tell Frieren, like you said, Kenny, live your life in obscurity. Do not make yourself into this big known figurehead. Do not become like Himmel the hero. You need to be a secret. You need to remain dormant to all people. Like, people will come and go, and they will always remember Himmel the hero. And if they don't remember you, that's all the better. It's all the better if they don't remember you. So Frieren learned to suppress her energy, and so many. Oh my god, Frieren throughout the show, she falls asleep and like she's known to wake up really late every day. And like she has to be kind of shooken up, and then she has to be fed and dressed, and her hair has to be brushed.
I love how like silly it is, right?
It is
because like she's got to be waking, and like Fern is literally like feeding her as she's like half asleep.
Yep.
And she's like, oh,
it literally is. They draw them in like that chibi way, right? So it's been a thing that she's almost, I won't say narcoleptic because it's not like she goes to sleep at random times, but she sleeps. She's known to sleep for long periods of time, and she doesn't usually get up. She's like a degenerate. She doesn't get up until like 1 p.m. And so, you know, everyone, humans, our lives are so short that we can't afford that luxury to do that constantly, and most of us anyway. So like she naturally, Fern, who's this little girl with the purple hair that she ends up taking on, she's waking her up every day, like, yo, you have to get up, we have to do stuff, blah, blah, blah. So to circle back, so she visits Hyder. He has this little girl suppressing her power. We know that Flame was the person that had to tell Frieren to do the same thing when she was younger. Like, you need to suppress your power. You don't want to walk around flexing that much mana to everyone that you see. Demons will find you, and eventually they will jump and kill you because that you are a threat. Like, seeing that shit is like, oh, we gotta extinguish that flame.
Yep. And we already know that the Demon King wants all elves eliminated anyway.
Yes. That is his actual order to all demons.
It is very beneficial to Frieren to not make herself a target for the demons.
Yep. So 2 things happen when she visits Hyder. 1, he says, I have a favor to ask you. And he says, I want you to take that girl as an apprentice. And I want you to bring her on your journey. Frieren's like, I can't do that. She would be a fucking huge distraction. She would weigh me down. She would slow me down. And most likely she would also get killed. Like if she says, do you know how many apprentice mages die in like the first 2 years of being employed? Like they don't usually make it. You know that the homicide rate basically on them is like really high. Like they die every day, B. Like they're not making it. So she immediately rejects the idea of taking on this. At the time, the little girl's probably like 4 years old. And so she's like, I'm not doing that. He's like, all right, well, if you can't do that, could you at least do this? And he pulls out a book, a grimoire, and he's like, I found this grimoire at this ancient grave, and I think that it has the secret of immortality and a long life in it. He's like, but I can't read it. I can't decipher it. And I know that you can. And she scrolls through it real quick. She kind of fans the pages and she says, yeah, I can do this. It'll take me like 4 or 5 years. And he goes, that's fine. Mind you, this is after Himmel Hero he's been dead for a while now. He's been dead for a couple years. This is the reason why she even visited Hyder, because she's like, well, fuck, Himmel died, and that kind of hurt me. So let me go visit the rest of the people that I traveled with. So she visits Hyder, she finds him, and now he's an old ass man. When they first show him in episode 1, obviously after the journey, he's youthful, he's a beautiful man, just like Himmel was and whatever. But now when you see him, he has lines all over his face, wrinkled, hair is gray, hair is thinning. He's not in as bad shape as Himmel was, where he's like on a cane, hunched over, but he is way older, but he's a bit more lively.
They did the funny, and I love this in anime. I don't understand where this trope comes from, but it's so exaggerated. But Himmel is like 2 feet tall when he's an old man.
Yes.
Like they made him so fucking small.
Yeah,
like he shrunk crazy.
Yeah, they shrank him a good 5 feet. Like he is so tiny when she sees him again. And mind you, he's naturally taller than Frieren in like their regular journey. But yeah, when you see him when he's an old man about to die and he's in his, he has his cane and all that, he is very small. Hyder is still tall. Hyder is still tall. He's standing upright. Even when Frieren visits and she's asking him questions and he cuts her off, he says, I'm not about to die, Frieren. Like, you're talking to me as though I'm like literally, because she visited Himmel and he died, basically. That's in her world, especially because time passes such, in a such different way that even if she visited Himmel and he died 2 years after her visit, that's a quick amount of time for her. Like that's
she's like, I visited him and the next day he died.
The next day, in her world, the next day he died, even though it was years. So when she visits Hyder, she's speaking to him in a way as though she's like, is there anything that you want me to do for you before, And he's like, bitch, what? I'm healthy. I'm out here getting it. These hoes need me. And he's like, you got a bottle of that Don Julio with you? You know my drink? I like to get crunk. So he's telling her, like, I'm not about to die, Frieren. And also, that being the only reason you've come to see me is a little sad, but like, here you are. I'm glad you're here. So he gives her the grimoire and he says, I can't decipher it. Can you do it for me? And she's like, yeah, it'll take me 4 or 5 years. And this is when you start to first get a hint that this girl, the main character, time for her is just something to throw away so easily because 5 years is nothing. So
whatever.
Yeah, she just like shoves it. If somebody told me Frazier's going to take you 5 years to get your next certification in anything, I would be like, God damn. Like 5 years of my life right now is a lot of my life because I'm getting
Yeah.
older. So it's significant to me. If you take 5 years of my life right now, that's a lot of my time.
It's something you got to sit there and think about. Is this worth doing?
Right. You could tell by the way she answered it that she quickly just goes, yeah, it's not really that big of a deal. So yeah, she just kind of like, all right, I'm just giving up on that. And it's not, it's not that huge of a thing. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to decipher it for you. I'm not going to argue with you about how long it's going to take. So while this is happening, he says, well, while you're here, since you're going to be here for 4 or 5 years, right? I'm not asking you to take Fern out on your adventures with you, but why don't you at least show her how to control her mana, give her a couple lessons? And Frieren's like, sure, I can do that since I'm here and I'm not taking her with me, but I can at least show her how to use magic. And then they do like a little thing where she finds the girl is standing on a cliff, and across from her in this valley is this gigantic rock. And the girl is charging up mana and shooting this gigantic fucking laser beam at the rock, but it doesn't reach it. The second it gets like halfway across the valley, it dissipates. She turns around, she looks at Frieren, and she's like, I still can't do it. And she's like, what are you trying to do? And she's like, I'm trying to blast a hole in that rock. That's when I'll be a proper mage, according to Hyder. And Frieren's like, I see. And she's like, well, there's a couple ways that you can improve, and we can make that happen. She's like, but you are already able to suppress your presence really well. And then Fern comments like, yeah, I've always been like this since I was a child. And this didn't really mean anything to me at the time because it's so early in the show when you find out about this little girl whose presence is unknown. She's good at sneaking up on people. She's good at like hiding her mana or whatever. It doesn't really mean anything to us watching episode 3 or 4 or whatever. But like as the story unfolds, you find out that suppressing your mana is a fucking task. It actually like makes you tired.
Yeah.
When Flame first tells,
exhausting to do it.
It is literally like an active thing. It's like actively burning calories. It's like doing something active that is making you exhausted. And when Flame first tells Frieren that she needs to suppress her mana, Frieren starts doing it. She's like, okay, I'm doing it now. What? I'm starting to get very tired. And Flame says, I need you to do this as long as I do it. And she's like, well, how long is that? And she's like, all the time.
Forever.
Yeah.
Because Frieren's like, I've been doing this for like 10 hours or something.
Yeah.
Like, how long do I have to do it? Yeah. And Flame's like, as long as me, for life. And
Yes.
It's like, what? And it gets explained that like, because when you suppress your mana, if you're against somebody else, if they're acute with mana control themselves, they can notice there's fluctuations. As you're suppressing your mana, it's never perfect. And so there's going to be these slight fluctuations in your mana. It's not going to be stable. So even though you're bringing down the level of your mana and it's harder to be detected and etc., there are fluctuations in it. And it's easy to tell, oh, this person's actually suppressing their mana. It's really easy to tell that.
Right.
So Flame, her way around that was like, I have to do it all the time. It has to become second nature. It has to be like breathing. So that, and then that's how she teaches Frieren to do it. And because otherwise, so super fast forward to episode 10, when she fights Aura the guillotine, and she, like, when it's done, when the fight's basically over, but Aura doesn't know it yet, Frieren kind of reveals, like, she gets cocky, and she's like, yeah, you should have realized, but, like, I've been suppressing my mana. Like, I'm actually way stronger than you.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Aura laughs, and she's like, that's not possible. Like, I'm an amazing mage.
And
I've been a mage for 500 years. I can see your aura, and there's no fluctuations. There's no hint that you're suppressing it. That's not possible. And so, yeah, it's just like a thing that, but because Frieren's been doing it for 800 years, however long she's been doing it,
yeah,
it's so second nature to her. It's so natural to her. It is like breathing. Like suppressing her mana isn't a chore anymore. But in general, it is an exhausting thing. So to bring back to what Frazier's talking about, this little girl is kind of this anomaly in that she's already always naturally suppressing her mana at like 4 years old.
Yep. She is a prodigy, very clearly. And even the blast that she shot off, you kind of knew a little girl should probably not be able to do that. Even though it didn't reach the rock, you just know somebody at her age of like 4 years old should probably not be able to do that. Anyway, Hyder explains that he found the little girl, on the brink of death. Her whole family had been murdered. And she was standing on a cliff about to jump off. And Hyder walks up with a bottle of his liquor, his best liquor. He sits down on a rock. And he's like, it'd be a waste if you died. And the little girl is literally about to she closed her eyes. She's about to lean forward and let herself fall. And he says that, and then the little girl turns around, and the rest is like history. We don't know the full context of what they talked about, but basically he says it would be a shame if like you just let yourself go like that. I also was in a group of people and I lost a lot too. I lost somebody who was amazing. And he brings up Himmel, And it's like this really sentimental moment. At the time, as a watcher, what I love about this is that we still don't know these characters like that.
Yeah.
It's only episode like 3 or 4. We don't really know Himmel the way he knows it, but you can tell the way he's speaking about him, the way he pops open the thing to his alcohol, and he just like sits on a rock and he's like, I was nothing like him. And I always admired the way he was and that he wouldn't like let somebody just fall behind. He would never let somebody self-harm. He's like, but I was nothing like that, even though I'm a priest or whatnot. And he's just talking. He's talking to this little 4-year-old girl who's about to unalive herself, but he's really just like speaking his own therapy session right now. And he convinces her, he talks her literally off the ledge. And then it fast forwards back to Frieren and, her training her. So Frieren's like, listen, there's like a couple things to know about mana and magic. One, natural ability. There are people who are just like really powerful. And then there's people who like train or whatever like that. And in order to increase your mana, you just have to practice every day. Basically, that's like the only real way it can happen. And you just practice a lot. Eventually your mana will grow, your spells and stuff like that, your potency will grow over time, but nothing can really do anything about that except you literally practicing a lot. That's how I did it. I just practice a lot. And so they go through these training sessions. And there's a lot of them throughout these 10 episodes where they show Fern training as a little girl. And all this time, they also show that Frieren is deciphering this grimoire in her spare time. So, like, while things are happening, these years are passing. Remember, Fern started off as a 4-year-old, and Frieren said it was going to take 4 to 5 years for her to decipher this thing. So, there's like a little time skip, little montage thing of them training. Eventually, Fern is like, let's say 9 years old now, because 5 years have passed. So she's 9 years old. She's actually taller than Frieren at this point. and Frieren's kind of annoyed by it. But yeah, Fern has grown up a bit. And at this point, Hyder is also ill. Like he is, 5 years have passed. And now officially he does have a foot in the grave. He's not like, I'm going to die tomorrow or anything like that, but he is on his way out. He gets really ill. And she says, hey, like I'm pretty much done this book. I also realized there's nothing in here about immortality. There's nothing in here about the secrets of living a long life. And he's like, oh, damn, I thought there would be. And she's like, you tricked me. And what the real plot point is that he got her to decipher that grimoire, knowing that it had nothing to do with immortality. It would not extend his life at all. What it would do is make her grow close to Fern, who she was reluctant to take on as an apprentice magician, and bring her with her, right? She says she would slow me down. They get killed all the time. She's not ready. I don't have the time to make her ready, blah, blah, blah. Like all these excuses of why she couldn't bring Fern. As Hyder is dying, Frieren, she's smart, but she's not as crafty as like, humans and people can deceive her, which I like that early on. Hyder, he deceives her, like flat out. And so now she's close to this girl. They've been together for 5 years. She's grown fond of her, even though she's still pretty harsh on her. She's a harsh teacher, but she's fond.
She's taught her magic. Like now, at this point, she now knows that this girl is much more than an apprentice mage.
Correct. Because she's seen like, she's able to suppress her mana at all times, which is already broken. But then she's also ridiculously powerful for her age. The little girl's a prodigy. Fern is a prodigy. So now Hyder is dying. He's like, listen, I do need you to take her with you. And then obviously Frieren doesn't have a choice at this point, basically, but I also think that she would at this point anyway, because like, again, she's grown fond of her. And it's that whole little arc of her deciphering the grimoire over that 4 or 5 year span that really happens over the course of like 1 or 2 episodes is amazing. It's just so good. Like everything about it, it's just more character development. They talk about when they travel together all the time, they talk about Eisen, how stubborn and stuff like that he is, and he's a dwarf. So now you have Himmel's dead, and they fast forward, Hyder also dies. And Hyder has like some last words to say to Fern or whatever, like, his last moments. And he's like, I don't want to take her away. I don't want her to see me like this. Like, I don't want her to find me. And that is always sad to me. I have seen a couple movies where like characters go through that exact thing where they're about to die. We just saw it in The Last of Us, actually, where the episode with Bill and his husband.
Yeah.
And like they close the doors, like, don't open the door. I don't want you to find me like that. I did crack a window so that way the smell is not too much. But like, I don't want you to find me. I don't want, because at the time he doesn't know that like, the main character in Last of Us, that his girlfriend, his partner is dead, right? She died on the way to Bill's place. And so he's speaking as though they're still like together. I was like, I don't want you guys to find me like this. And it's this really heartfelt. It made me cry. But that whole thing of like, I know I'm going to die. There are people in this world that I love. I want to say some last words to them, but I don't want them to see me dead because I don't want that to be their memory of me. And I think that is so, that like hits home so well because I hate funerals. I don't like seeing people in the casket. I don't like seeing the way people look. Such a good, this anime is so fucking good, bro.
It's hard. And then like, so that happens, right? And then like we have Fern. Something that's also really cool is like Frieren has taught her a lot, which kind of gets revealed going forward when Fern ends up fighting this demon. But so to go backwards, there's this really interesting moment where Frieren ends up having to go to this random village. And Fern's traveling with her.
Yep.
And so they're going to this village, and Frieren ends up telling Fern that like there was this demon that got sealed away who was like the god of attack magic. He like invented attack magic.
Yes.
And he had the strongest attack spell ever made called Zoltrak.
Yep.
And she's telling her all this stuff, and Fern's kind of getting scared, like, oh my God, like this guy is crazy. Like, this is insane. And she was like, his spell was so powerful, it could pierce any armor, it could do this and that. And when we fought him 80 years ago, we weren't able to beat him. We had to seal him away. And the seal's getting weaker now, and we have to go like deal with it. And we're gonna go like I'm gonna go, and now I have what I need to beat him. And you don't really know what's going on at this moment.
No,
and she's talking about, and you're like, this guy has like the attack spell. It is Avada Kedavra. Like he
literally he has like, the Avada Kedavra of the time.
Yeah, like he is crazy, right? So they release the seal, and then he's talking shit.
Oh,
and he's about to let people have it. And it's going to be a problem.
He's like, the last time we fought, you had a whole party with you. This time you're by yourself or with this little girl who's insignificant. You don't stand a chance against me, Frieren. You barely beat me before. You had to seal me. What could you possibly do now? I've only gotten stronger in my sealment. I'm like Eisen in the chair on these niggas. Like, he's just talking cash shit, okay?
So
came out popping it.
He fires the most powerful and potent attack spell known to man. And when Fern sees it, she gets confused.
Yes.
And she's like, what is happening? And she asks Frieren, and it gets explained that...
This is the best anime I've seen in like 5 years.
It gets explained that when he was a problem, he like created the most powerful, potent attack spell of all time. Nothing could contend with it.
Yeah.
But since then, it's been 80 years, and humans are crafty.
Yep.
They don't live a long time, and they get a lot done in the time that they do live. Since the time of Zoltrak and this demon,
80 years
and
ago.
now when Fern has like become like 15 years old, that attack Zoltrak is basic attack magic.
It has been incorporated into every single classroom of every single mage ever. It is a very normal thing to not only defend against it, but to know how to just throw it out casually and freely. They have done, for the last 80 years, they have made that shit the equivalent of 2 + 2 in first grade.
Yes, it is just standard, common, basic attack magic.
Yep.
And so Zoltrak's big hot shit. Fern, and it's so cool because when Frieren's telling Fern the story about Zoltrak, she gets worried. She's like, how? And I think Frieren even says, like, you're going to kill him. And she's like, how? She's like, how the fuck is that going to happen?
Yeah.
And then when she's fighting him, she's like, oh, he's a child. Like, what he can do, children can do.
Yes, literally, like the most basic apprentice magician could actually take him on at this point in the times that they're in. But he thought, it's been 80 years. You guys, he's still probably seeing her aura, and her aura is super small. He's like, the reason why I lost last time is because you had a whole party. You had 4 people, and they could all do shit. But now you're just with like, if anything, you're with a liability, a child, and you weren't enough last time. So like, how could you ever beat me now? And so what's cool is that they also crossed this entire little arc with Qual, this demon who invented Zoltrak attack magic. They crossed this with a flashback of Fern learning how to defend against offensive magic. And Frieren is holding her staff. They're in the forest. She's shooting lasers at Fern, and Fern is blocking them with like this thing that looks like Reflect in Final Fantasy. It looks like Reflect in Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, it's like Scintilla. Like, it's crazy.
It looks exactly like Scintilla. And then at one point she puts it on her entire body and it looks like Reflect. So she's defending against these attacks, and Frieren is like, what if I increased it to be this frequency? And then she starts throwing out a lot of them. And then at one point she makes her attack magic like zip around the barrier and go to Fern's neck, showing that like, I could kill you because you're only defending where you think the attack is going to go. Like I'm shooting a laser at you and you're saying, oh, it can only go straight. I'm just going to block right in front of me, which makes sense. But I can actually make this go around. I can make this go above you. I can make this go below you. I can do all this thing. So she's like, you have to learn to defend yourself in more ways than one. So then she's like, okay. So then the girl, the next time Frieren fires at Fern in this training session, the girl wraps her entire body in the defense magic. Now it looks like a big ball to reflect. And she's like, that's cool that you can do that. But that requires a shit ton of mana. And there's no way you could hold that up in a long battle of attrition. So then Fern is like huffing and puffing, like, and she's like, that's enough for today. We'll revisit this tomorrow. So then they flash back to the next day. And she's like, okay, let's revisit what we were talking about yesterday. You cannot use an entire fucking ball of magic to defend around all of you. You need to learn how to start blocking accurately by making just one panel of glass. One panel of the glass that reflects the laser, just make one of it, one tiny bit of it to reflect the laser right where I'm going to attack.
Because most people make like a honeycomb.
Yes.
They make like a honeycomb of it where like there's a bunch of it and it stops it. And yeah, she's teaching her how to make like just like Frazier said, this one little
precision blocks
piece of glass. Yeah.
Yeah, so Fern is learning how to precision block, and Frieren is firing off a multitude of lasers at one time. Like 8 lasers are coming out of her wand at once, and they're encircling Fern, and you see like her blocking each and every one of them, or learning how to anyway, in this flashback. So then they go back to the Qual fight, and Qual is doing exactly what they had already practiced every single day for years, because this is when Fern was younger. So now he's throwing all these, like a volley of lasers. He's like, what will you do against this attack? And he blasts off all these fucking lasers, and Fern is just standing there precision blocking every single laser.
Yep. And in Qual's time, what he just did, there was no armor in the world that could defend it. It would pierce it. And like Frieren is explaining that, like, after the fact, she explains that like everything that every magic armor that humans have made since then has like incorporated these defensive spells and these offensive spells. Like everything humans have done over the last
like that shouldn't kill anyone.
Whatever. Yeah, it's like it's literally nothing, and it's so fucking cool how this ends up happening, because it's like Fern ends up. I just love the difference between her expectation of the fight. She's about to fight, and 80 years ago, this is one of the strongest demons. Period. He's a problem for the entire planet. Like the whole planet, he's a problem for. To the point where, if you think about it, now granted, Himmel's journey went on for 10 years. I don't know where in their journey they sealed away Qual, but Himmel and his party fight Qual and cannot beat him. They have to seal him away.
Yeah.
At some point in their journey, at the end of the 10 years, they defeat the Demon King.
Yep.
So just to give like perspective, I'm sure they got stronger over the course of that 10 years, but like this party that beat the Demon King, they were not able to kill Qual when they fought him.
Yeah, which is so interesting to think about it, because all of this happened in a 10-year period.
Yeah.
Just to get a context of how much Frieren leveled up in that short amount of time.
And then 80 years later, Fern's a prodigy in her own right. Maybe not any mage should be able to do this, but it's still like when Fern sees Qual's attack, she's like, you're literally just doing like what everyone does. Like
right.
This is
nothing.
This is basic shit. Like this is not Avada Kedavra.
No,
like, not
anymore. Yeah, this is bones, girl. So yeah, it's literally like Scary Movie 2, and fucking was it Clarissa, whatever her name is, the white girl, Sydney. Sydney's running down the hall. And you don't know what she's running from, but I remember Brenda, the black girl, is like, girl, don't bring him over here. Don't bring that shit here. Why are you coming this way? And she's like, run, Brenda, run. She's like, oh my God, you call me by name? Like, you're fucking outing me and shit in my hiding spot. So they start running. And then eventually Brenda's like, I can't run anymore. And she turns around. She sees what's chasing them. And it's like a skeleton. She's like, girl, this is what you're running from. This is bones. This is nothing. And they start like taking his bones away and playing Jenga with his body and shit. And literally how Fern is looking at this fucking demon that has this Zoltrack magic. So anyway, they blast him open completely. Shoot a laser right through his heart. He starts disintegrating. When demons die, they turn back into just nothingness, like mana and nothingness. They dissipate completely, including their blood. So like there's no trace of them, right? This is important.
This is a plot point. Before we get on to that, though, I just want to say something that's so cool about this as well is we don't know this at the time, because it's like episode 3 or 4 or whatever, when they fight and kill Qual. We don't know at the time all of the intricacies between demons, how they view mana, how they view like the mana power level, and the fact that Frieren and Fern are suppressing their mana. So when Qual sees them, he literally is looking at jokes. He looks at their mana and they're fucking like their mana is nothing. We don't realize that as they're fighting, like they're doing something crazy. Like they're suppressing their mana and they're releasing volleys of attack that are stronger. They have a higher mana potency than what their mana is. And so, like, Qual never stood a fucking chance.
Yeah.
And that's, like, part of how Frieren was trained by Flame, and then Fern was then trained, which we don't realize this until way later when we see Fern fight Luger, like, this demon prince guy.
What's cool about that Qual fight is I believe also when he gets lasered and killed, he's like, what was that? And they're like, that was just regular offensive magic. It was Zoltrak. Yep. And he's like, that in his head, he's like, that couldn't have been Zoltrak, but we don't know why he thinks that in his death. Like, while he's dissipating away, we don't fully understand why he thinks that could not have been Zoltrak. And then that's a plot point too. So to fast forward back to where we were like, you know, episodes, well, I'll say 8, 9, and 10 are this little arc, or the guillotine. So when they first come to this whole big town, right? This town has a king and everything, and like, you know, he's trying to parlay, like Kenny said, with the demons. There's these 3 demons: Lugner, Linny, and Brat. Drat. So is Lugner is the leader. He's the one that looks very noble, the one that lied about having a father in order to just prey on humans and prey on the king's son who died, and say like, I lost people too. They get attacked by Frieren the second she comes in. She walks in town square. She sees them walking. She's like, there's demons. She pulls out her wand. She charges up an attack, and the guards jump on her because they're like, yo, that's our guest. These demons are our guests. We're trying to see if we can come to some peace terms, and you're about to fuck that up right now. These are envoys of peace. So they imprison Frieren in a dungeon below the castle, right? And after that whole scene that we talked about earlier, where Lugner was asked, what's a father? And he says, like, I don't fucking know. I just use that as a way to make that dude not attack us in that moment. But I don't know what a father is. It's just some bullshit that humans made up, essentially. While that's happening, Linny, his girl demon assistant who's with him, she's like, where's Drat? He's like, he went out to go take care of a problem. So they're having wine on the balcony, and Lugner makes it known, we're going to get them to lower the guard of this village, because the whole thing is that the town they're in, the castle they're in, or whatever, it has a barrier that Flame the Mage put up hundreds of years ago. She put up this fucking huge, massive barrier around this town so that demons cannot actually get in unless they're like invited in the way these 3 demons were invited in. And the demons are trying to understand it. They don't understand, like, when we try to just attack this place, we die. Like, they fucking crash into it and they fucking disintegrate if they try to. So they do not fuck with this town, but they eagerly want to kill everyone in this town, eat everyone in this town, because that's just how demons are. They're evil for the sake of being evil. They just want to conquer, right? So they're trying to get into this town. They've been trying to get into this town for hundreds of years, but they've never been successful because of Flame the Mage's protective barrier that she put up, and it's still been there ever since. They're like, okay, the fact that we're allowed in here, though, means that you can somehow allow people in. Like, demons can come in here, but we don't know how it works. So they're trying to talk to the king and trick him to reveal how it all works. Anyway, Frieren is imprisoned below. There's a guard watching her, like a standing keep, right? There's a guard standing keep outside of her dungeon. She's sitting there chilling. She's like, oh, this is really annoying. Like, you know, demons are terrible. They'll never ever be able to be reasoned with the way the king thinks they will. This town is probably going to be wiped out soon. I will leave in the chaos. I will make my escape in the chaos. This is what Frieren is actively thinking as she's in prison. Also to note, at the time that this is happening, you're not like fully aware of how powerful she is. So
no, you're not. The show's done a great job. You know she's broken.
Yeah.
Like, you know she has to be broken, but the show still at this point hasn't shown her like do anything crazy.
Right. And so you've never seen her mana for real. That's the main thing, is that like you've always seen her just have like this little sliver of mana. And then the things that she's done, they also downplay her so much, because during these 10 episodes, right? Because we're at now like 8, 9, and 10. But before that, while she's traveling with Fern over the course of 20 years, like literally Fern, by the end of this, it's been 28 years since Himmel the Hero. So Fern is an adult, actually. And like they've been traveling together. Fern is much taller. Fern has boobs, which Frieren actually envies. There's a whole little scene. Like, if you look down at your phone, you'd miss it. Just like the guy looking around at the portraits on the wall to make up the fake story about the dad. There's little things that you have to pay attention to in this anime. But like, she looks over at, while they're walking, she's like, you're taller than me now. And she's like, yeah, I suppose I am. And she's like, and you've changed a lot too. And they like show Frieren on the side. Like, it's a quick 2 seconds. She's like looking at Fern's chest, and then they show Frieren's chest, and Frieren is flat chested. Like she has nothing going on. It's like a funny little scene, and you can tell she's a little annoyed that like, damn, I don't even have those, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get them because I've been this way for 1,000 years. But like, so Frieren, they haven't really shown her power. What they have shown is she'll come across a roadblock where like a little avalanche will have blocked that road that caravans can't get through. Like there'll be a guy with like horses and caravans, and they're like, damn, we can't move any further because of this roadblock. Could you help us? We know that you're, you know, a mage. Mages can move these types of things. So they show, and then over the next couple like days, she just like lifts up the rocks and moves them with Fern. They're like moving them one by one, just like moving the rocks. And then they sleep, then they come back to it and they move a little bit more. And at first, she was just going to like, Fern was like, we could just fly over this and fly him. Like we could take his caravan, the guy who's at the roadblock, right? He needs to get through. He has all his goods that he wants to trade. He's a merchant or whatever. And Fern is like, well, instead of spending like days here moving this roadblock, we could just fly over it and fly him over it too, and it would be much quicker. And Frieren is like, yeah, but what about all the other people who would be stuck if we did that? So that's just like a little bit into her character right there. So they spend all this time, you see her like lifting up one rock and moving it. This makes you think that she's not that powerful. I think that they do this on purpose. I know they do this on purpose because now I see what she could do in episode 10. They do these little things like that. They also, same exact thing happens. There's a shipwreck that happened on a beach. This town is like, it's a town on the edge of a cliff, right? And it's like, there's like a beach next to it, and on that beach. Man.
So I wasn't sure if you saw this episode because I wasn't sure if it was in the first. So this is the one where like they want to see the sunrise on the water,
correct?
Right?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
So they spend. I feel like they spend a couple months here in this town,
spend
right?
Actual months there. The seasons change. The seasons change while they're there.
The seasons change. They spend a long time. And Frieren was in this town before with Himmel the hero and his party. And there's this big event where at the start of a new year or whatever, they watch like the sunrise over the ocean. And the ocean and the beach is all like has all of this litter on it essentially. And so Frieren and Fern spend the next couple months like cleaning it. And then it gets to the end, and then like the New Year's festival is about to happen. Fern's kind of excited to see it. People are talking about it. Frieren's not that interested in it, but
she literally slept through it the last time, I think.
So they talk about it in the flashback, and they're all excited to see it. Himmel, Heiter, they're all excited to see it. And Himmel's like, hey, like you should come see it with us. And Frieren's like, it's just a sunrise. Like, why? Like, I don't care. Like, I'm just going to sleep in. Like, I can't be bothered to wake up that early to see the sunrise.
Yeah, because the festival is early. The sunrise is super early. She would never be awake at that time normally.
So she doesn't get to see the sunrise, and she doesn't understand why they're making such a big deal out of it. So the festival happens, and then Himmel's like, she's like, hey, how was it? And he was like, it was amazing. Like, I can't believe you missed it. Like, it was incredible. And he goes, one day, like, you should come back and like do this festival. And she's like, I don't see why. Like, I don't think I'll care about it. And he's like, I think you will. I think you'll care about it because I know you. And then, so like nothing happened. So, 80 years pass, right?
Yeah.
So now they're here and they're at this beach. They clean it up. And then Frieren's like, I really want to see this festival. And Fern's like, why? And she explains it. And she's like, I don't think I'm going to care. It's just a sunrise. But Himmel told me I would. Himmel told me it would matter to me. He said it was amazing. I want to see the sunrise. So
and Fern's like, you're going to get up at 4 a.m. to see a sunrise? You can't even get up at 12 p.m., let alone 4 a.m. Like, how are you? She's like, oh, I just won't sleep.
So then Frieren does the ultimate mistake, the I just won't sleep. She does the I just won't sleep. And then she does the Frazier before getting on a flight.
Oh my God.
I just won't sleep. I'll just take a quick nap.
Yeah, like, just a quick hour, I'll just sleep.
So she does that. And then Fern wakes up and she feels so bad because Fern knows that she's like, oh my God, please. And she's like trying to wake Frieren up.
Yep.
Eventually, she wakes Frieren up. She gets her to the thing and the sunrise happens. And it's this beautiful sunrise. And Frieren's watching it, and she's like, yep, I was right. Like, it's just a sunrise. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can see the sunrise and the reflection of the sunrise in the water. And she's like, yeah, whatever. Like, I guess Himmel didn't know me as well as he thought he did. And then she looks at Fern, and she sees Fern smiling and being happy. And she asks Fern about it. And I forget exactly what Fern says, but, like, Fern has this happiness and this enjoyment in watching the sunrise and seeing it with Frieren. And then in that moment, that makes Frieren happy. Like, that Fern was made happy.
Yep.
And then Frieren's like, fuck, Himmel did know me. Because it wasn't the sunrise itself that made... Himmel was like, I know you. Like, you will appreciate this sunrise. Frieren was like, oh, whatever, it's just a sunrise. She didn't appreciate it. But then when she saw the happiness it brought Fern, And the moment they had together, she's like, fuck, Himmel did really know me. Like, because now it does matter to me. I do really appreciate what just happened in this moment. It's such a beautiful, I remember like slightly tearing up a bit when I saw that, because like, it's such a beautiful fucking moment in storytelling. Like, I'm so happy because I wasn't sure if I should bring that up.
Yeah, no, that happened already for me. I'm glad that you're actively thinking about what to say and not to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is something that is an arc. That is one of the smaller arcs that happens in an episode where like they show them cleaning this shipwreck for months. And this also downplays how powerful Frieren is, because again, I'm watching her slowly move pieces of broken wood and seaweed and shit like that, and just like cleaning this beach up over the course of a long ass time. I'm like, damn, this takes so long. And Fern is annoyed because Fern doesn't want to do this shit. For her, being here for months, like you got to remember, Fern is a human, so she's aging normally. Freeman is like, oh yeah, it'll take us like 2 years to do this. Fern's like, what the fuck? We don't have 2 years to just do this. And a lot of times what'll happen is Freeman will just go somewhere and agree to do an odd job to get a grimoire. And the grimoires will have spells that are completely useless, at least from Fern's perspective. It'll be like, this one allows you to see through people's clothes. This one allows you to create...
I love Frieren is so funny too, because when you think about the perspective of it all, like we're thinking magic, we're thinking like Thundaga, Comet, right? Zeta Flare.
Yes.
And then Frieren talks about like a spell that makes you see through people's clothes, and she goes, it's a legendary class spell. She's like, this is a legendary class spell. It lets you see through people's clothes.
She is so serious, bro.
What the fuck?
And she says a lot of things deadpan. Like, she does not say them with any kind of enthusiasm or excitement. She's very calm when she says, like, we're going to work here for 6 months just to get this grimoire. And what does this grimoire do? It makes you, you can make ice. Like, you can make fucking shaved ice with it. That's what the spell does. The spell literally allows you to create shaved ice. That is all it does. You can just create shaved ice, and it's going to take us 6 months to get this spell. And this one allows you to make fucking syrup for shaved ice. And this is going to take us a year to get. Like, she will go around collecting these things. And every time Fern asks her, why do you like doing this? And she's like, it's just a hobby of mine. It's just a hobby of mine. I go around, I collect grimoires that teach these miscellaneous spells. They're not all useful. They don't even mostly have an impact on anything, but I just kind of learn them. And it's really cool because at one point she wants to put these nice flowers around Himmel's statue, and she has to go learn a specific spell to do that. And it's like this whole journey they go on just to get like this specific spell that can make this type of flower appear. Because she can do a spell to create flowers, which she learned from Flame the Mage. They revealed that later on, but like she can't do this exact one. This, I forget what it's called, but it's like some blue flower or whatever.
Yeah, and it's like Himmel's favorite flower or something like that.
Yeah, it kind of looks like his hair color. So go back to like where they are in the dungeon. Like Frieren's in his dungeon, and she's saying this whole town's going to be overrun. They're all going to probably die. The demons are going to massacre them. And I'm just going to leave during the chaos. So as she's saying this, I was like, damn, she can't even like really fight these people without the party of heroes, because she's about to just run away and she don't want any problems, right? They're talking about this person, Aura the Guillotine and shit like that, who is one of the 7 deadly sins. Like the Demon King has these 7 generals, and they're like more powerful than all the regular demons, of course. They have names, right? Like they actually... So this little arc is the Aura the Guillotine arc. They fought her before, and like, you know, obviously they won, but it wasn't... like they didn't kill her. And apparently they didn't kill a lot of these demons back then, because even Qual, who's really weak compared to Aura, like Aura's way stronger than him, but like they just lived. They didn't kill them. They killed the Demon King, but they didn't kill all of the demons that they encountered. So they had an encounter with Aura before. It resolved where, like, you know, Aura probably fled or some shit, who knows. But now Frieren is like, I'm just going to leave. And then Drak, the guy who is the other demon that was with Lugner, he shows up and kills the guard that's watching over the dungeon that Frieren is in. He cuts his head off with one. He like has this wire, like bungee gum type shit, and he just like flicks his finger, and the guy's head and the armor just comes off completely, and it's a clean cut. It's like Silas from Heroes. It's a clean cut. Decapitates the dude, walks inside the cell, and this is at the end of an episode.
That's a deep cut reference, by the way.
It was, right?
That was a deep cut reference.
Yeah, that's one of those ones, if you know, right? Like I brought up Silas, like from fucking Heroes. Save the cheerleader, save the world. So the end of this episode is so cool because he walks in, he sees Frieren, he's like, I'm here to kill you. And she's like, is that so? He's like, yeah, I'm going to kill you. You're obviously a fairy or whatever. You're an elf. And you are the only thing that's a problem, Lugner said. Like, my boss told me that you are the only threat to us. And so I'm wondering, like, all right, they're about to have this little fight here. I'm hoping that she's fine because in my head, I don't think that she has her scepter. Like, I don't think she has anything to fight with. I'm actually worried. I don't know how this world works yet when it comes to, like, her powers, because they also show her when she fought Qual, she used her wand, and she always has used her wand to fight. So she doesn't have her wand now, it seems like. She's defenseless. She's kind of like chained up or whatever, like, you know, arms or whatever. And so I'm thinking, oh God, he has her in like a really bad spot. Hopefully Stark and Fern show up and they like throw her staff and she can like fight them off at the last second or some shit like that. Well, she's like, I want you to know something. I'm stronger than you. And he's like, you don't look like it. She's
also,
like,
at this time, we don't know what that means. He says you don't look like it. And like to us, that just means like, oh, she just looks like whatever.
Because they show her on the bench. She's in a jail cell on a bench with her arms tucked between her hands, cuffed up. And she looks so small and unassuming, right? You would never look at this person and think, oh, this person is like a god.
Yep. But we don't realize still at this time, it's so funny how many times this happens before you realize it.
Yes.
He's looking at her mana and he's like, you're not stronger than me.
Yeah,
like,
she's like, I'm stronger than you. And he's like, you don't look like it. And she's like, I want you to understand, I'm like way stronger than you. And he's like, are you stronger than Lugner? And she's like, I'm stronger than Aura the Guillotine. I was like, so to be clear, Aura the Guillotine sent Lugner and these two cronies into this castle to like lower the defenses so that Aura the Guillotine, the head general, one of the Demon King's generals, right? She's in a distant forest waiting for the barrier to come down. She is actually a very, very powerful demon. One of the most powerful
like an army of like thousands of undead that she's waiting to unleash.
Yes, she is one of the 7 strongest demons in the world, right? So that's just what she is. So she sent Lugner, who is he's the leader in this little faction of this little 3-man team. Lugner is the leader there. And obviously Drott, the guy who's talking to Frieren in this dungeon, he's weaker than Lugner. So he's like, are you stronger than Lugner? And she's like, I'm stronger than the nigga that y'all all report to. I'm stronger than your boss's boss. like I outrank your boss. She didn't say I'm stronger than Lugner. She said I'm stronger than Aura the Guillotine. And the episode goes off with that quote. The way they directed this shit, bro. When I tell you, Kenny, the way they directed this shit, I got goosebumps. I got fucking goosebumps when she said that. Because
you were like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. Because I was like, wait, I still haven't seen her like really pop off that way. And they've been talking up Aura the Guillotine. You know, they said she's one of the 7 deadly sins and all that. They've been talking her up. So I'm like, oh man, she must be the real deal. So next episode starts and Frieren is facing this guy. At the same time, Stark takes it upon himself to go and fight.
Real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Because we haven't even talked about Stark really at all.
No, we haven't.
So another way that they've downplayed Frieren is they're on this journey and a dragon is like blocking their path, or like she wants like the loot that's in this dragon.
Yeah, it has a grimoire.
There's a grimoire in the dragon's nest, and we find out that like dragons collect things that have like a high density of magic or whatever.
Yep, that's exactly right.
They like create a nest out of it. So she wants this thing, but there's a dragon blocking it. She's like, I can't. There's a big dragon here. What the fuck am I supposed to do?
She tells Fern to just attack it and deal with it. And I think Fern fires off like a crazy ass laser at it, and all it does is it just wakes up angry and starts fucking chasing them with murderous intent, and they run. Like they literally run away.
So like, to be clear, Frieren could murder that fucking dragon. but she's out here acting like she can't. And then she ends up finding this boy Stark, and because this is all kind of like a thing, because at some point she ends up I think finding Eisen.
She does.
Eisen tells her about the student that he had, and the way the thing unfolds is super interesting. But there's Stark, and we find out that he's kind of a coward. He's like super scared. Everybody thinks he like defeated this dragon, but really he was standing there scared, and the dragon just like left. And he was like, he feels like a fraud, so he stays in the town and he's like practicing. And there's this huge fucking ravine that apparently he's created because he's hitting it with his fucking axe.
Yep.
And he kind of reveals that like he didn't scare the dragon away. He was just super scared, and the dragon just spared him for some reason, right? But then it gets revealed even later because Frieren's like, why do you trust this kid or whatever? and then Eisen's like, he's just like me. And essentially what you find out is that like there's a flashback of the party and Eisen like shaking and being really scared.
Yep.
And it getting revealed that like that is an important quality in like whatever. And like,
yeah, being one of the strongest warriors, it's okay to be afraid. Like every time we fought a powerful demon, I was shaking as well.
Yeah, and it's like this really cool thing, and like there's a part where they're trying to, it's just really cool. And so what ends up happening is Stark is actually super fucking strong, like really fucking strong.
He's like
he doesn't
Zenitsu.
realize, he doesn't realize how strong he is. And so the dragon was on, he thought the dragon just spared him because like he was meaningless. What you come to find out is the dragon was on Real Recognize Real.
Yes.
The dragon saw that Stark actually was a problem, and that if it came down to it, it would hurt. Like there'd be like a difficult thing.
So it's like a lion versus an elephant. Usually lions, they can kill elephants, obviously, but there's a reason why they target the weakest in the pack at the back that's like struggling to keep up with the herd, is because one, when that lion fights an elephant, there's a good chance they will both die. And it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it.
It's just not worth it. So Stark is like super scared, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Stark ends up fighting this dragon. Frieren says he's going to help, and then she doesn't help at all. And Stark like one-shots this fucking dragon.
Yep.
And then he gets all mad. He's like, why aren't you helping me? Blah, blah, blah. How the fuck am I supposed to do? And Frieren's like, he's dead.
Yeah, it's already dead.
He's like, oh shit. So it's really cool because he is like Zenitsu, but he's only like Zenitsu for like 5 minutes. And then Zenitsu's been Zenitsu. I fucking hate Zenitsu. Anyway, moving on.
I love that character. But so yeah.
But
Stark.
Anyway, that goes into downplaying Frieren.
It does.
Frieren could have handled that dragon.
Yeah, now we know.
There's a reason why she didn't, and she recruited Stark. They needed a front man. They needed a warrior in their party as they're building up this party for this new journey they're going on.
Every single episode leading up to this point where she is in this encounter with Drought in this dungeon has made you feel like she's not that strong. It makes you feel like the real reason why they beat the Demon King is because of Himmel, Hyder, and Eisen. And I bought into it because that's the way the episodes were directed, and it makes sense, right? Like, I knew she was broken, but I still thought maybe when it comes to fighting demons, she needs like a distraction. So something that she would do a lot of the times is like, yo, get me an opening. Mm-hmm. Like, she'd be like, yo, get me an opening and I can deal with it. She even told that to Stark, like, if you can hold the dragon's attention for 30 seconds, I can beat it. That makes it sound like I need an opening to beat things and not I can just solo things on my own. So they've been downplaying her every single episode leading up to this.
And when you think of her in the context of a party where you have Hyzen, the super strong dwarf frontline warrior, and Himmel, this really fast like swordsman, it's like, okay, it makes sense that these guys are able to buy time. Hyder is probably a priest using like barrier spells and stuff like that. So it makes sense that there's like they're able to buy time, and then Frieren is able to like charge up some super strong spell. But
that's what I thought their party was like. I thought that their party was literally, Frieren is in the back charging while the other guys fight and distract, and then she fires a blast at the last second and beats everything, and that's kind of how their party operated. That's not the case. At least that's what I don't think that was the case. I'm sure they're going to show more about their original pilgrimage, but Stark takes it upon himself in present time to go and fight Lugner straight up, because Lugner has revealed himself at this point to be like, I am a demon. I'm done with this pussyfooting and pretending like I want to parlay with you humans. He flat out kills every single knight in the king's employ, and then tells the king, like, I'm not going to kill you right now because I still need to understand how this barrier works. And I know that it goes through your family bloodline. Like, you're the people who are in control of it. I don't exactly understand it. So I'm going to leave you alive. I'm going to sit you here on this balcony, and I'm going to let you know I'm going to fucking torture you until you tell me. So I'll give you some time to think over it, but I'm going to leave you here. And when I come back, shit is going to go down again. You're going to get fucked up, and that's kind of the thing. So while that's happening, Stark barges in and he attacks Lugner, and Lugner has the little girl assistant demon with him as well. And like they're going back and forth. The Lugner guy, he fights with blood magic, like his actual blood. He bites his hand, and all this fucking blood comes down. Like, I'm talking about a lot of blood falls from his hand. And he starts using it. He can harden it and make it extremely sharp. So he's like blood magic, something that we've seen multiple times before in anime. If you've seen enough anime, you've seen this exact type of thing before. So it wasn't like impressive or anything, but you could tell he's extremely strong because when he clashes with a weapon, the fucking blood is that hard that it actually blocks weapons, like metallic weapons. So this guy's really powerful. He's also that cocky kind of character like Byakuya, where he stands still and fights you. His blood does all the work. Like, he fucking fires the blood at you like bullets. He makes spikes and tree like branches come out and all that shit. He does everything that you think about with somebody with blood magic who's adept at using it. He does that. him and Stark are going at it. Stark obviously is not able to really like deal with him. And it gets to a point where they get him and like in front of his window, and it's at nighttime, and he's like, now Fern. And she fires a fucking Zoltrak laser, an offensive magic spell, and it blasts Lugner like half of his the top half of his body, like half of it is just gone. Like he has a huge fucking hole. One of his arms is completely disintegrated, and like half of his chest is disintegrated. And so he is like destroyed, slouched down on a wall now, bleeding out. He's like, what the fuck was that? And Fern is like floating out the window, like she blasted through the window, so there's like glass and everything. She's like floating out the window like an actual witch, like with a broomstick. She's like floating there, staring at him. And she's like, I can blast you again and kill you. And then that's when the other demon, the little girl demon, she jumps in front and starts charging up like an energy ball thing. And so Stark grabs Graft, which is the king. He grabs Graft, and they're like, yo, we can't fight them. We just have to leave. Like, let him, you know, he's down now. Lugner's down. He's going to recover, which is unfortunate. We can't, like, take him out right now because that girl's here. And I don't have an open shot. At least that's what Fern is saying. She's like, I don't have an open shot to, like, deal with him right now. So let's just escape. They escape with the king. And Lugner's like, leave them be. I need time to recover. Like, I'm fucked up. And he's like, what was that magic? That wasn't just, like, regular offensive magic.
Like, how the hell did she evade Lenine's detection? Because like, Lenine, it's hinted at that I guess has really good mana detection.
Correct.
And he's like, how the fuck did she not realize that there was a mage outside charging this fucking beam?
That is a good point. I like that demons walk around with scouters, essentially. And the little girl demon, that's her ability mainly, is that she's there to let the other demons know, yo, there's someone powerful around. Because in the demon world, you know, they walk around with their mana fully out most of the time. And so she would know, hey, there's something powerful coming. We should probably leave, or aura's on her way. I can feel her aura type of thing. So when Fern blasts through and hits him, he's like, how did I not know that was coming? How did Lenny not know that was coming either? Like, we got completely caught off guard, but that attack was strong as shit. So something's not adding up. Like, and he's staring at this girl. He can see her aura, her mana, but like, it doesn't look like it should be anything on a level of what he got hit with. And he's like, this feels different. This doesn't just feel like Zoltrak. This feels like something else. And then the name of that episode is called Demon Killing Magic. And so then it's revealed like in the next, so this whole arc continues on with them fighting. So now you have Stark is fighting against the girl, and then you have Fern fighting against the Lugner guy. So they're like two mages fighting and two swordsmen fighting. And it's also revealed that like the reason why Lenny is able to fight with an axe, and she's fighting the exact same way as Eisen, which is Stark's, you know, that's his teacher. It's also Frieren's companion when they went on the journey to beat the Demon King. For whatever reason, Lenny, the small demon girl, is using all of Eisen's moves. Like she made his weapon appear out of thin air. She's fighting with it, and she's using his actual fighting style. And so Stark notices it immediately. He's like, yo, these are my fucking boss's moves. What is going on? Like, how is she doing that? And she reveals like, oh, I have the ability to imitate anything that I've seen in terms of combat, and I can just like replicate it. And she's like, and this is your master's abilities, and I'm going to use them to kill you and slaughter you and all this other stuff, you know, cocky demon shit. And then she starts switching. After that doesn't work, she starts fucking switching weapons, and she's making daggers and swords and javelins and all types of wild weapons, and she's proficient in every single one of them, and he's getting his ass beat.
He's beating the shit out of Stark.
Yeah.
Beating the shit out of him.
Like Lenny's destroying Stark. But
Stark has this like iron will. You know what I mean? Like he has that, like, he keeps getting up. He's just super strong. And I think at one point he says like he recognizes that like, I was scared of you.
Yep.
And then he's like, you're fighting like my master, but you're actually weaker. Like, you're not hitting, like, your blows aren't as heavy as his blows were. Like, you're actually not hitting me as hard as he hit me.
He even says like, there's no force behind your attacks.
Yeah. And so like he's almost getting in his own way and taking all this punishment. And then he kind of realizes like, there's nothing for me to be scared of here. Like, you actually aren't on my level. You're not on my master's level. You're just an imitation. And he's able to like get the better of her. And then we also have Fern fighting Lugner, and their fight's fucking awesome.
Oh like, my god. The animation.
Because this is the first time the show is really like kicking up like this.
Yes.
And their fight's going crazy. There's beams and blocks happening. There's all kinds of crazy shit. And I remember being somewhat worried when the fight started, because I was like, man, they did this big thing to Lugner, but it required Stark being a distraction and her powering up the shot and shooting him. And like, how's she going to beat Lugner one-on-one? Like, they kind of need Frieren here. Like, how's she gonna beat this guy one-on-one? Like, what the fuck? And like they do this thing where eventually she fucking beats him, and she's like, I'm surprised you still haven't realized like how I beat you. And then he's trying to figure it out, and he's like, oh my god, like I can't believe you did that. Like,
yeah, that's
you're a
unfair.
disgrace.
Yep, he's pissed.
That's unfair. And he's super mad. He's like, you're a disgrace to magic. But then it like goes on, and it's still not revealed what the fuck it is.
Also, at the same time, I want to say this: while the town is under attack by these 3 demons, Frieren escapes because she fucking murdered Drott. Okay, like Drott wraps her up and starts hanging her. She murders him. It is not close. She zero diffs him. She like chokes him out, and he begs for his life. She just kills him mercilessly. She kills him, and when she leaves, she walks out of the dungeon. She sees that the guard that was blocking the way so that she couldn't escape is dead. And then she looks backwards and she sees the demon that she just killed, and he disintegrates. She puts 2 and 2 together. She realizes, oh God, people are going to think that I murdered the guard and escaped. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to skip town. So she finds a black robe, she puts it on, and she starts literally walking towards the exit of the town. Like, she breaks out the dungeon, she walks towards the exit. While she's walking out, Fern and Stark happen to like be walking down the street, and they notice, like, Fern notices like, yo, Frieren, you're Frieren. And she's like, what are you doing? And they're like, I'm leaving. It's like, why are you leaving? It's like, because she's like, let's go in this alleyway and talk. I was like, okay, here's what happened. I was down in my cell, and there was a guard watching. A demon came in, killed that guard. Then I killed that demon, and the demon dissipated. You know what that looks like, right? And they're like, oh, I see. So she's like, I'm going to leave town. He's like, but what about those demons that are here? It's like, you two deal with it.
Yep. She's like, you can handle it. And it's like so crazy. She has complete faith. She's like, you guys can do it. Like, I know you guys can handle it. Like,
and she just literally leaves. Now, we don't know where she's going, but like, you can kind of have an idea at this point. But she literally leaves the fucking town. At the same time, while Fern and Lugna are fighting and Stark is fighting Lenny, they're going crazy. Like, Fern is going crazy with the lasers. She's firing all these lasers at him, and he's blocking them with the blood, but he's having a hard time. He can't get in on her. He's also commenting on how fucking fast she fires her spells.
Yeah, it's getting faster and faster and faster. And she's like, what? He's like, what the fuck is going on? Because, like, she doesn't have a lot of mana.
Yeah.
She's young. Like, why is she shooting? And they also make a note that she's just using basic attack magic and basic defense magic. Like, she's not doing anything crazy. She doesn't have like a specialty offensive. She's not using like Faraga. No. She's just using like base magic attacks. But she's doing it very fast with high potency. And he's like, what the fuck?
He's also like, yeah, go ahead.
He gets this idea that like, okay, well, I have way more mana than her. I'll just outlast her. Like, I'll just win in a battle of attrition. And that's not working. And he's like, what the fuck is actually happening here?
And eventually, so she just lasers the fuck out of him. She gets through, and while he's on his deathbed, he notices like, oh, I see now. This is what you've been doing. You're an abomination. You're playing unfair. That's actually so not okay what you're doing. You're suppressing your mana. Again, going back to the flame, the mage thing, Frieren's teacher, they don't even think to do that.
Nope.
It doesn't cross their mind that they would ever do mana suppression.
Yeah, and then this goes to Frieren and Aura, and we find out Aura has this magic. She has these scales, right? And she like weighs your soul. She weighs her soul against your soul, and your soul is essentially like all of your mana or whatever. And whoever has more mana wins on the scales and can command the other one to do whatever they want. Because Aura is a demon that's lived over 500 years, she has massive mana. And she's trained that entire time. She has not stopped training. She's very adept with her magic. So she has an army of soldiers, and you find out that basically she takes control of them, and then they become like owned by her. They have to do whatever she says. And she used to just do that. But then she noticed that people with really strong wills for a brief moment could like overcome it and like still try to fight. And so one of them tried to kill her even after they lost like that war. So then what she learned is that like after she subjugates you, she just cuts your head off. And then like you just stay subjugated forever under like her spell, under her mana. And you just stay that way. So she has like fleets and fleets and fleets of soldiers in all of this armor, all headless, that she's taken control of, cuts their head off, and she just like has all of them. Frieren shows up. So basically Frieren shows up. She's fighting against this army of undead. And Aura notes that the last time they fought, Frieren was just blasting things and just destroying things. And she knows that this time, instead of just like blasting and destroying these things, she's like disenchanting the spell that's on the armor so that the armor doesn't get damaged. And Aura's like, I don't understand why she's doing that.
Right.
There's a reason why she's doing it that gets kind of revealed, but she's doing all of this, and then Aura's like, oh great, this is going to like take her mana away. Like she's going to use up a lot of mana doing this. And then all I have to do is weigh her mana against mine. I take control of her, and then like I own her. In between this, we get all the flashbacks that we already talked about with Flame and everything like that. And I mean, you just watched it. I'm sure you want to talk about it. You want to kind of talk about?
Yeah. So what? Okay, I'm all excited because this is like the last part.
You are.
Yeah, this is like the last part of the podcast. So we're over 2 hours, but you know that's what happens when we watch great anime, right? One Piece, stuff like that. Okay, so she has the scale. Aura has this scale, and like Kenny said, you put your souls on it, and whoever has the higher mana gets to control the other person like a puppet. Well, Frieren, who's been suppressing her mana all of this time, she's like, I'm going to beat you. And Aura's like, there's no fucking world where you're ever going to beat me, especially without your party. Like, you know, I'm stronger than you. I can see your aura. It's not that strong. Blah, blah, blah. All the typical things.
She makes the note that, like, I fought you before, like, 80 years ago, and you were with a whole party. Like, you guys won, but you were with a whole party. And it's been 80 years, and you haven't really gotten any stronger. She's like, your mana hasn't improved. Like, you must have just wasted your time for 80 years. You must have did something else, worked on other skills that weren't magic.
Yep.
But, like, you've kind of like, you're no stronger than you were when I fought you 80 years ago.
Literally that. And so she doesn't really expect that Frieren can do anything. And like they're battling. Frieren's knocking out the little crony soldiers, the knights that are just zombified, beating them left and right. And it gets to a point where like now that Frieren looks to be a bit exhausted, Aura wants to finally do the scale thing. She's like, all right, this bitch is even if I was a little unsure at the beginning, like I tired her out enough now that I feel way more comfortable weighing our souls against each other now that she's been fighting for a while. So she finally activates the ability, and you see her soul come out. You see Frieren's soul come out. Frieren has no response, like she's just chilling. And when they get weighed, obviously Aura's soul is way more dense with mana, and so she's like able to control Frieren now, and she's super happy about this. And she's like, I finally got you, bitch. Like, you know, you may have killed the Demon King, but it's a new regime. I'm going to avenge him. Popping her shit, like everything. She's like, you're finally going to die. You know, I know that you're like a genius and all this other stuff, and I despise your kind. Like, this is a great, glorious day. No one's going to remember you. I'm going to wipe you from fucking history. And she's like, Frieren, kill yourself. And like, Frieren makes a motion, and she like puts, you know, a sword up to her neck or whatever like that. And then she stops. And then Aura's like confused, like, what the fuck is going on? And then Frieren's like, actually, and then like after this flashback plays of like how powerful the little girl actually is, how powerful Frieren actually is, when they show like Flame's aura and they show Frieren's aura when she was a little girl in that village, and you see how fucking gigantic it was even back then. She realizes that the scale was tipping the other way. She's like, what the fuck is happening? How is this possible? You don't have more mana than me. Why is this scale tipping the other way? And she's like, the truth is, I've been suppressing myself this entire time. She's like, that's also not our explanation. I can tell if someone is suppressing themselves because there's always fluctuations that show when someone is suppressing themselves. Like, I'm not a regular ass demon. I'm one of the 7 deadly sins. So like, I can read mana. Let's not act like I'm some fucking crony who couldn't tell. Yeah. Like, she's like, even if you were suppressing yourself, there's still signs when someone is doing that. And I know the signs, and you don't have any of the signs. And Frieren is like, oh, that's right. You don't know. I've been doing this my entire life now. So this is my natural state. And then that's when Aura's eyes get bigger. She's like, but the truth is more this. And she fucking releases her aura. And you just see this gigantic fucking ball of energy surrounding Frieren. It is outrageous. It's the biggest aura you've seen so far. It's the biggest mana you've seen in the entire show so far. It's bigger than Flames was when they showed it. It's bigger than anything. Like, it's outrageously big. And she's like, I'm the strongest thing walking. Like, Frieren says, like, I am the strongest. And
yeah, she says, because Aura says, like, I am a demon mage who has like trained for over 500 years. And Frieren says, the mage you were looking at now has trained for well over 1,000.
Yep.
Like I'm double the amount of time you've been here.
Yeah. So you're actually a child to me. And then Frieren starts walking away, and she just stops for a second, and she goes, Aura, kill yourself. And Aura, the way they do it, it's so almost hard to watch as it's happening, but I was laughing, like I was giddy. Aura grabs a knife and she starts putting it up to her own neck, and she's like fighting against the scales, but there's nothing you can do once the scales have judged your souls. Like once it has decided whose soul is heavier, there's nothing you can do. So like she's fighting against it, and they even said that if your will is strong enough, you can momentarily like break out of the scales control over you. Well, apparently not when it comes to Frieren, because her shit is too heavy. So you see Aura start to slice into her neck and blood starts coming out. And she's like, you know, she starts cursing her and everything like that. And she's trying to like stop it from happening, but she can't. And then eventually she just cuts her own fucking head off and disintegrates.
And then it's so cool because they show it like about to happen, but they don't show the sword go through her neck. But the way they frame it is like they go you see like the camera go crazy. And basically you're seeing Aura's head as it flies through the air, but you're seeing it from the perspective of Aura's eyes. As amazing. The head like flies through the air. It's just like this crazy scene, and you just see that's like you finally get to see that Frieren is like not to be fucked with, and she's way stronger. And it's like this whole buildup of everything that's happened. And there's even more that we haven't even talked about within these 10 episodes. Like it's so cool because these 10 episodes I think are so dense. Like we barely talked about Stark, and there's more to talk about with Stark and his relationship with Fern, and just there's so many interactions, and we can talk more about it when we talk more about this season as a whole. But you know, we spent over 2 hours now just talking about this, and it's so dense. Yeah, like it's such a dense anime with so much that happens, even though it feels like things are happening so slow. When you pay attention to the subtleties of the writing, it's like there's a lot of density in what is happening and what the characters are doing and what there is to talk about and what there is to examine, especially when you examine backwards at things that have already happened. So it's just really cool because I feel like I can talk about these just 10 episodes. I can talk about these 10 episodes more than I can talk about some anime that I've watched 24 episodes of.
You're preaching to the choir. Yeah, literally these 10 episodes, I can't believe it, but I didn't think that this was going to be as long as it was, but this anime is so layered and it's such a well-told story. It's a super slow burn. There's not a whole lot of crazy action, but the action that they do have is meaningful because of that.
Yeah.
It's very meaningful action. It's paced probably one of the best I've ever seen. Like it's in the top 10 pacing ever as of right now, just because of how well they did the first couple arcs leading up to this Or the Guillotine arc to downplay Frieren and make her not seem as though she was that girl.
Yeah. So yeah, they did a lot. I'm so happy that you got. It's just such a cool coincidence that, like, first of all, I didn't know that you ended up watching 8 to 9 episodes by the time that day happened, and then you were like,
"Oh, when I watch anime, I go." So nowadays, because I
didn't even know you really started it. Though after the one day, I remember you said like, "I'm gonna watch episode 1," but then I didn't really hear from you. And then I think that morning, like the morning that we did the Edison Club podcast before we did it, you randomly messaged me like some shit, like just like a screenshot, and like
you were like, "Oh,"
it was like Frieren the Slayer, and then we were like, "I was like, oh shit," and we were like discording back and forth a little bit.
That's another thing too. Yeah, we'll talk about this in the next episode of Frieren. But bro, the fact when they revealed that her name, that she's one of those geniuses that Lugner despised, Frieren the Slayer, and they show her at the end of that episode, she looks fucking malicious as hell. I said, "Oh, this little bitch got names. She has names." Oh, I love it. This is one of my favorite animes already.
Fucking what's his name? Muzan doesn't want it, all right?
Exactly.
Muzan does not want it.
No, he does not.
I understand the rules are different, but like this bitch is the Demon Slayer.
No,
okay?
she really is though. Like actually, she's on another level. So I'm gonna say we wrap this one up here. And we pick this up. I'm going to continue because I wasn't able to watch any of it since episode 10, since I knew we were going to record at the end of that arc. And this is perfect. This is a perfect time to like move on. So I will now continue my watch. There's 18 episodes left. I don't exactly know when I'll finish them, but I'm going to watch them when I eat lunch. I'll watch a couple of them. Like that's what I'll be doing over the next couple of days. Monster Hunter is coming out in 4 days. And so obviously when that does come out, that's going to take up a good chunk of my time. But I plan, out of all of the Monster Hunters I've ever played in the past, this is the one that I'm going to take the slowest because of multiple reasons. One, I still have to do content. Like I don't want to completely abandon my post here. I don't want to like leave the channel barren because I'm playing Monster Hunter. So I do not intend to do that. Obviously, I'll be streaming it, so in a way that is content, but I know that most people watch the channel for Yu-Gi-Oh! So I want to still continue to do Yu-Gi-Oh! We're still going to do Master and Disaster. We're still going to do a podcast every week, all that good stuff. I'll be playing Monster Hunter a lot, but I'm also going to take like breaks here so that I can watch like Frieren. I want to continue that. I'm continuing season 2 of Solo Leveling. I watched episode 8 that just came out on Sunday, so now I'm watching it like week to week, which I kind of hate. So I kind of wish that I just wait until season 2 was over or whatever, but like I'm here now, and there's a lot going on with that. The show is amazing.
I'm so excited for you to keep watching it, finish it. We'll do another podcast on that, and we'll do we could do that.
I want to do Solo Leveling season 1. So when you get to the end of season 1, it's only 12 episodes. When you get to the end of season 1, we can do a podcast on just season 1, and then we will be able to wait to do season 2 at a later date when like the full thing is out. It's only, granted, they just did episode 8 of season 2, so there's only like probably 4 more episodes left, so 4 more weeks, so a month. But at least season 1, we could talk about season 1. Season 1 was fucking amazing anyway. And so
we got Solo Leveling and another Frieren coming up, and then eventually Solo Leveling season 2. So we got some good anime to talk about.
I'm in love with anime again. To kind of get back to that whole little thing of like I've been watching anime in large chunks like I did when I was a kid. Like I've been doing like, I can do 10 episodes, or in the case of Solo Leveling, I could do all of it and just like stay up because it was the weekend of President's Day, so I have that Monday off. And so I was off like basically Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It was like a 4-day weekend for me, and I was like, I just need. Once I started, I was like, I can't stop. I just literally cannot stop. So.
If you guys are here at the end of this episode and you haven't seen Frieren yet and you haven't seen Solo Leveling yet, now's your time. You just heard us talk about 10 episodes of Frieren. If there's no way you're not excited, go watch it. Go finish it before we talk about Frieren again. And you can do the same for Solo Leveling. Watch season 1 because we're going to be talking about that. And it's going to be hype. You already know it is. So here we are.
All right. With that being said, why don't we give a shout out to the people on our Patreon at the party member or higher tier. So we have Stole My Pokemon from Tupac, the Dual Kenny, Leon, Quest, Xavier, This Ain't God, This is Stanley Earl, the Sultan of Slot, Dom, Dragon Ruler of the Side Events, Gabe Marini, Omri Reynolds, First to Home, Big Man Blastoise, Vincenzo, Dallas Bailey, KJ, Fair Bear Flash, Sarah Maria, Alex Ahern, FT Campa, Edison Club, Kyle Batelho, Gores in My Prison Pocket, Sugal, Vicky Venomon, Elijah Barfall, Tyler Tadeo, Volvi the Mega Monarch, Peacock the Enraged of the Edison Club, Janitor 215, Thomas Rue, Joshua Carroll, Eric Chai, Brian Moore. Behind the Duel, this podcast with Ty and Justin, Mike and John, and then we have
Free Tim Bailey's Glazed Smooth Butt, Nah Odd Win, Frozen Go Dojo, B-Dog23, Phil and Poister, Romeo Snyder of Team Hugh, Tyler Frasher, Daniel Anderson, Deroa, Chicken Toaster Strudel, Jordan Eastman, Robert Light, Kazi95, Clanger, Pavinci, Travis Lurs, Gores on My Lap, HT19, Gregory Calmaring, Limp Bizkit Jigsaw, Mike and John, Froggo, Anthony Japov, Michael Zhang, Konjik, Tyler, Neos is my alias, Chris Louie, Bob Cuddy, and then the newest member, Peyton Capel.
Thank you guys so much for your support. We appreciate you. And look out for more IMNerd tournaments. If you're in the server, we will be doing our little locals and stuff like that. And we'll be doing more like Edison tournaments. Also, we haven't brought it up in a while, but when we get to 200 paid members on Patreon, we will be doing a 1K. The money for that was already paid to us by YouTube. So we have the $1,000 just sitting there. We've had it for months now, actually, because YouTube paid us like back in October, November. We're just waiting until we get to the point of 200 subscribers. That's like the goal we want to reach. So once we reach 200 subscribers on Patreon, we will officially do the 1K, which will be an Edison tournament, held by us. So free to play if you're in the Discord server and all that good stuff. Should be fun. But that's coming down the pipeline.
We're trying to get there. We're trying to get to 200 subs on Patreon. If you guys can help us get there, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great. Tell a friend to tell a friend.
We're going to give back to the community because we just love doing it. We do it all the time anyway, but we want to do like a nice, cool, big tournament that has a $1,000 cash prize on top of it. So, yeah.
All right. And with that being said, guys, do the things that make you happy, including enjoying one of the best animes to come out in the last several years. This is definitely a top tier anime, and I'm not even done. I recommend it if you've made it this far just because you love the podcast and you listen to every episode regardless. This is one that I do really like. So, yeah, it's just amazing. That's all I got to say.
Yes, sir.
We'll catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.
Peace.